Recording in progress.
Hello, welcome to Just Play Tabletop Wargaming, and today I'm joined by Ian, and we are going to be reviewing the Orruk Warclans Battletome. We'll be doing it full, all the war scrolls, all the allegiance builds. We've even got some lists at the end to go over, so if you want to know everything about Orruk Warclans, this is the place to be. Look, if you enjoy it, please give us a like. You got any comments, tell us what you think about the Orruk Warclans as you listen to this as well. And of course, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. But more importantly, if you enjoy it, you can buy all your Warhammer from us, justplaygames.uk. Well, Ian, we're going to get stuck into now reviewing the Orruk Warclans Battletome. I'm quite excited for this one. I've been waiting for this for a while, particularly because I painted the Ironjawz army. So I really want to hopefully be able to use everything I've got. Is always your first one, isn't it, with Games Workshop? I've got, I think I have 35 hard boys. Am I going to be able to use them? Am I going to have to paint up something else? You know, so that's the big one for me, because they were already dropping off the coherency rule. So that was the first thing I went to when I read this as well. But we've got 3 armies to review in this, really, haven't we? We've got the Kruelboyz, which are brand new, the Ironjawz, which we've already mentioned, and of course the Bone Splitters. We're going to give them all our full attention, even the not so loved anymore Bone Splitters. Hey, and we'll see what we can come up with, what positives for you guys who do own a Bone Splitters army and want to use it on the table still as well. So see what we can.
Yeah.
If you're only watching this and you haven't watched our Stormcast one, there is the Stormcast one. I recommend check out the channel. You can watch that or listen to it on the podcast. These books have been trimmed down quite a lot. There's a lot less like allegiance abilities or like different rules for each clans, lots of artifacts, a lot less command traits. And I think we agree we quite like that there's just more good stuff, and we're not skipping over or reading through pages and pages of one hit against a monster Tuesdays and that in it, Ian.
Or command traits that you can never take because you're always taking an allegiance or whatever, or a clan or whatever we call them in this book.
Yeah, maybe a little bit more flexibility in the list building. I think quite a lot less content in the book if you're buying them for rules, but not what everyone buys the books for anyway, right? So, why they're so pretty with all the pictures and one to have a little look at here. So I've redeemed my code as well. It worked on the Warhammer Plus app. Not Warhammer
Nice.
Plus app. Warhammer Age of Sigmar app. Now the app doesn't work today. So maybe I should take back me saying I thought it was quite good.
Yeah. And also as well, worth pointing out that Ritchie wrote all his lists for the show prep in the app, and then the app stopped working. So then he had to rewrite all his show prep.
I believe I'd done that on the couch last night. I was like, I'll give it a go. I'll carry on using it. And I was like, oops. Oh, well. It's too much faffing about. You can make the lists if you don't want to put everything on it quite quick. You know, if you just like, these add up to this and here's a list of units. That's okay, but it's like the faff of giving them everything, every battalion and blah blah blah.
It's like multiple things to go through, and it's too high touch for obviously I'm involved quite a lot in mobile app development and that kind of stuff, and you just have to touch it too many times. There's too many things that require like a change of page or something, and the 40k app had the same problem. They're not, they're just not really super well designed apps, to be quite honest, but it's nice to have them available. It comes as part of Warhammer Plus for free anyway, so we're sort of getting it with that, which I think as far as we're both concerned anyway, is no-brainer, cheap value for all the stuff you're getting for that Warhammer Plus, really. So,
and
it's not
£5, but £5 for that. I think it's
a lot of stuff.
Well, anyway, that's enough waffling. Let's take a look at the book then. So I guess we're going to start with the Kruelboyz. So the way this is structured, this book, is you're going to have the Kruelboyz battle traits, which is like their allegiance abilities, and we've got some command traits, artifacts, power, and we'll get to the spell lore for all of them a little bit later on as well. So there's First one is venom encrusted weapons. So this is the one that's been everyone will have seen already. An unmodified hit roll for an attack made by a Kruelboyz Orruk is a 6. It causes a number of mortal wounds equal to weapon's damage characteristic. Like a very overused rule in Age of Sigmar right now, but it's here.
Far too overused. Yeah.
Yeah. It's anything that's a bit magical or whatever is mortals, isn't it? Whatever.
Just everything. Just anything that's anything is mortal wounds. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the damage and the ability. This is good.
Super
powerful. Pardon?
Super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and obviously there's works on a ton of things. Guns, combat, everything. So it even works on quite a lot of the monsters, on all the monsters' attacks as well. Not all of them, but a lot of them have been given the ability to have them encrusted weapons. So this is everywhere when we're going to be looking at the walls. They got a Kruelboyz war of their own now. So I guess this is like a sneaky war, isn't it? They probably wouldn't be shouting this around like normal.
Yeah, they'd be whispering it. Yeah, like wah.
And this one allows you to when you pick a Kruelboyz general to fight, you can say they're calling the war, and if you do, you pick 2 other friendly Kruelboyz units, wholly within 18, that have not yet fought. The general and the units you pick fight one after another. That's pretty good.
It's very good. Yeah.
Very good for the army as well, because it's quite soft, isn't it? They certainly can't stand up to getting hit, and I think the only way you are going to do lots of damage in combat is probably with quite a lot of units that are soft or multiple small flying monsters. You're going to have to do it all at once, and it does allow them to fight with what they have got available as a mostly shooting faction, really. But
yeah, I like it.
The dirty tricks are pretty sweet. So this is after the players have received their start and command point, but before the start of the first turn. Okay, you pick one of the following dirty tricks. So noisy racket, -1 to wound rolls for attacks made by enemy in the first battle round.
That's
completely
so bonkers good. Yeah, it's amazing. Importantly, it's the only one of the 4 that doesn't need a roll, right? So all the rest need a roll to do something. So, you know, if the enemy is going to do anything to you in the first round, or if you're going first and you're going to take the middle of the board, you know, they're going to charge you with stuff or whatever, -1 to wound. Great. If you're playing against a shooting enemy faction, -1 to wound, as long as it's not Lumineth, because it wouldn't do anything but against other shooting factions. Really good. Yeah, powerful ability.
Decent. So now we go on to the rolling ones, and all these are you roll 3 dice, and for each 4+, you can pick one different something.
Thing.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you're hopefully going to get to like, you're thinking about this, you're like, right, I'm going to get 1. I'll, do this to 1 unit, 1 terrain priest, 1 enemy unit, or if you're only out, you might want to spike and get a bit higher, right? Like, so
yeah,
if you keep
one or two most of the time. You're going to get 1 or 2 most of the time.
So for each of the 4+s on lethal surprise, you pick 1 different terrain feature or objective that's not wholly within enemy territory and secretly down. First time an enemy unit finishes a move within 1 of that terrain feature or objective, you roll a dice. On a 2+, it suffers D6 mortal wounds.
Mega. I think
it is mega, but 4 up, then another roll, and where do they go?
I think I think it's all right. Yeah, potentially it can be quite mega. I think the wording on it's again this classic wording where they put an or in the middle of a sentence and it's not clear if the rest of the sentence applies to the whole thing or not. Do you pick 1 different terrain feature or an objective that is not wholly within enemy territory? Like, can you pick terrain features that are within enemy territory? Don't think it's 100% clear. And if you are allowed to pick terrain features within enemy territory, that can be a lot better.
Yeah,
I think
hopefully, because even if we went on the holy side, a lot of the time, like a big piece of terrain, you might target might be just out the deployment zone a little bit or something as well, mightn't it?
Yeah.
If a little bit of it pops out, you've got a chance. And a lot of time, the territories are half the board, right? So
yeah. I mean, luckily, you're picking your dirty trick when you know all this already. So if it's going to not work because of the setup of the terrain or the mission you're playing, you just pick something different. So it's all good.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, you might be like, there's some objectives in the middle of the board, they're going to run onto them. Okay, you can target them, but what units are they going to run onto them? Knowing you've done this, like
they've got to finish wholly within one as well. So if you're picking objectives, as long as they don't forget, which is an easy thing to do, they can easily just avoid being within 1 inch of an objective
within
as
one.
well.
Yeah, not holding.
Yeah. So terrain, not so much, but objectives you can. So
But
I mean, I do think it's good. The
potential,
numbers on it are good, but you know,
one thing on a 2+, it takes D6 mortal wound.
Yeah, it's not exciting unless you fancy your odds. But if you do get 2 and you can put it on 2 things, 2d6 mortals for basically free is really powerful. But it's really a gambler's one, this. But I think it pales in comparison to the next one. So
the next one, like disappearing after, I've been like, I got hyped down to, okay, I'll read it again. All right, not that good. Okay, I'll read it again. Right. Okay, it's not that good. So I'm just going to read it right the first time now. You don't know how much I've loved this first read-throughs. So roll 3 dice. For each 4+, you can pick 1 different enemy unit on the battlefield that has not been reinforced. Definitely didn't read that once. Then roll a dice for each unit you picked. If the roll's greater than the unit's wound characteristic, didn't read that either. Your opponent must remove that unit from the battlefield and set it up as a reserve unit. And then at the end of their first movement phase, they set that unit on the battlefield wholly within their territory, more than 9 away from all enemy units. It can't be used if the mission has no reserves rule.
Yeah.
Right. This is very good. But I went through I'm going to take the buff pieces off the board and they can't put the buffs up turn 1. I'll combo break them. Oh no, they've got loads of wounds. So I'm going to have to roll higher than that. It's I'm going to... The 30 block can stay off the board and I'm going to move all my vultures in and they're not going to have anywhere to go and they'll never get it on the table to, all right, not reinforced to, all right, 10 something basic are going to go off the battlefield or I'm going to clear a screen or something. I don't know how good this is in the Kruelboyz faction with what they want to do. What do you think?
My first thought was similar. My first thought was what I want to do is I want to take someone's screens off and then charge monsters at them on turn 1. But obviously, Kruelboyz not specialist at doing that, although they do have one pretty cool way of doing that, though. But for me, it's again, the thing is you pick this depending on the army you play against. So obviously, if you're playing against giants, it's pointless. If you're playing against someone who just puts nothing but an enemy pig army or a load of cavalry on the board, also not good because you're not going to get above their wounds characteristic. But if you're playing against someone like Lumineth, like a very basic, solid Lumineth build where all they've got is horses, you're going to have to roll a 3. But just pikemen, just wardens, you only need to roll a 2. They rely a lot of the time on being able to get those things up the board early to have anything to move to objectives. And if you're doing this so they can't move turn 1, that can be a big deal.
They can't cast their spells.
It means they can't cast their spell on turn 1. And also as well, although it's harder to hit 5 wound characters are the norm, right? Although it's quite hard to hit them. If you do roll your 3 dice for this and get 3 4s, or there is only 1 unit you really care about taking off, you can try to take a buff character off as well.
Mm-hmm.
On a often needing a 6. So it's not, you're not going to get perfect use out of it all the time the same way you won't with lethal surprise, but you can look at the board and say, right, which of these do I want to use, which is going to have the most impact. And I think it's I think it's really good. I think this is releasing at the same time as Stormcast as well.
Yeah,
we're going to have a lot of minimum sized, if you're not playing the obvious top end competitive armies, which not everyone will be, lots of people will be putting Stormcast models on the table. On a 3-up, you're taking, again, slow foot slugging army, taking one of the units off the board and saying I can't move turn 1. So loads of uses for this. Really good.
Yeah. I think that might be one that more tactics appear as, you give it more thought, or maybe different units come in the meta and things like that. Boss taking units of Mortec Guard off the board and things like that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Depends on what your opponent does as well, which is what I do like about these dirty tricks, is picking them once everything's set up. You know, like which one of these can I use to give me the biggest advantage, which is a, you know, player choice when it's not just random blind choice is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's you can get some early tells off players. At tournaments with little things they may do at the start of the game, can't you? And you might push your luck a little bit more if you get a little bit of a tell on, you know, they do something that maybe you don't think or isn't optimal, something like that. So there's a particular one at the weekend I have to tell you about. I got an early tell on someone. It was, you know, allowed you to approach the game a little bit differently. So, Covered in Mud is the last one. This one's great. Like, so this is roll 3 dice. Basically, reach 4 up on this one. You pick one friendly unit that's not a hero or monster. While it's in cover, it's not visible to enemy units.
Yeah.
This is really good.
Yeah. And note that there's no duration on that as well, is the thing that I didn't clock the first time round. I had to read it again, and I was like, oh, just like for the whole game. I do wonder if that's going to have an FA, not that it needs one, but get clarified with the duration of some kind. But yeah, I think it's great. Again, unfortunately, Lumineth ignore it, but you know, when they're shooting, because they have that silly word and count as visible, you know, like rather than anything else. But yeah, I mean, obviously against other shooting armies that aren't Lumineth, you can have all your archers potentially in cover. And you know, a completely one-sided fight, you can't be shot. You know, like
the dragons can't see them, for example, would be okay, wouldn't it? Start shooting them. So there's not that many other shooting army. The other one is snakes wouldn't be able to see you. So
yeah. But finding cover, depending on what event you're going to, you know, lots of events, like our events have a great amount of cover. Not every event has a great amount of cover. Not every event has a great amount of enough cover that you'll even be able to set up in a woods. You know, a lot of events you see just have, you know, terrain that's a lot less good than that. So it will vary by event as well, but it's a good ability to have access to, for sure.
You need to remember the other way cover works now as well, where like if you're all hugging it and it's like, you know, closer to the enemy and stuff as well. So you find your chances to use that then rather than just all sat in area. So keep that in mind as well. They're pretty cool.
It's a good set. I mean, they're doing Mortals thing is obviously the thing the army is going to be based around, you know, which is as any army that does Mortals always will be, unfortunately. So that's the thing we're really taking from it, but the other stuff's good.
Yeah, that's what we talk about most of the time. All right, let's hit the command traits up now. So we've got 3 for Killer Boss, Snatcher Boss, or Breaker Boss only. So first one, retreat and charge in the same turn.
Yeah.
Obviously always great.
Always.
The next one is before the turn has the first turn, you can pick a Kruelboyz unit and set it up again anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 from all enemy units.
This is the one I was just talking about with removing their screens, right? So you can go turn 1, take one of the screens off, and you're going to reset up one of your units for a charge, and then you know you can get the charge in. Obviously, it's before determining who's got the first turn. But generally, you're going to know who's got the first turn. So you're just pretty much just going to set up. You can set up a monster for a big charge.
Yeah,
easily with a screen removal.
I thought this one you might be able to set up like one of the buff pieces, like the Sloggoth who gives the +1 to hit. You could set up in range because you can slam the vultures in with a couple of other ways as well to double move them at the start of the game. So you could easily like put two vultures in and a crocodile or something up close if you wanted. Or
if you've got a unit of 9 crossbow boys that can't be seen when they're in cover, take them, plonk them halfway up the board in a nice piece of cover, in range of whatever they want to shoot, and just start shooting stuff turn 1. It's got loads of things you can do this.
It's good.
Powerful.
Now the last one, Egomaniac. If the general's within 3 of a friendly unit, you can roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound, and 4 up, pick one of the other units. It's allocated to them instead.
Brilliant.
So a really good. You've got they're quite soft. Some of the big birds are soft. The crocodile's a really important buff piece, which probably slowly walk around the board with guys next to it as well. So I like Egomaniac. I like all of them. I think there's
Egomaniac's pretty much the rule that I think we were discussing when we were streaming some games the other week. Was this is the rule that characters in Age of Sigmar should have, like as a default. You know, these warden rules, like guys on foot should be able to do this by default. But yeah, it's super good ability for all those things you just said. Good command traits.
Good set. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then we got some artifacts. So I Biter Ash. I'm trying to quickly read these so I can read them fast.
Yeah.
So this is start of the combat phase. Pick an enemy unit within 3. On a 1 to 2, nothing. 3 to 4, subtract 1 from hit rolls the rest of the phase. And on a 5 plus 1 for hit rolls for the rest of the battle.
Yeah.
No for me, but
it does nothing on a 1 or 2, and it's once a game, so not great.
And then Mork's Eye Pebble. So at the start of the enemy shooting phase, you rub the Eye Pebble. If you do, the bearer and all friendly units. There's quite a lot of this is worth considering for the big war. Later on, this is all not keyworded. All friendly units holding within 12 have a ward save of a 5+.
Yeah, I like that one. That's good.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's obviously a great defense against lots of things. So pretty good. But these are the artifacts. These ones you can chase more of, right? So you know how you rate that versus Amulet of Destiny or something. You know, I'd be able to get a second one, so or a third. The next one, Beast Killer Slop. I've read the names of these. Typical match player. Yeah. There's another once per battle. You pick an enemy monster within 3 of the bearer. This is start of the combat phase. Roll dice. 1, nothing. 2 to 5, d6 mortal wounds. On a 6, 2d6 mortal wounds. You see this type of thing quite a lot, but these are some of the biggest numbers we've ever seen on something like this, right? 2 plus d6 mortal wounds always. No, like on a 1 to 2, it's 1. On a 3 to 4, it's d3, you know. Well,
I think like this to me it does a bit too much to me. This, I think.
Okay.
I don't like critical effects, right? I don't like things where it's like on a 6 you do this as a default rule. But 2d6 mortals is too much. You know, like it's too big a game swing. It's too random. It's a good artifact, I think, because there's a lot of monsters out there. And it's just 3d6. Maybe a lot of monsters will get bracketed by a d6 when they've charged you or something as well, and you know that the chance of doing 2d6 is good. I think this is pretty good.
Yeah, I am the next one, and then we'll talk about something I think is a bit of a missed chance for me. So Spiker Seeds. So this is once per battle. After the enemy unit finishes a charge move within 6 of the bear, you can say they will throw Spiker Seeds. You do so, roll dice for each model in that enemy unit. 5+ takes a mortal wound.
Yeah. Very powerful.
It's very powerful, isn't it? Whole like trap thing going on, right? You think they could have like done a trap rule or something else? You know what I mean? Like, I think I agree they've like captured that sort of vibe in these rules. But, would have been, they've done terrain pieces in the past. There's no terrain piece here. Maybe there's some traps you set or tokens, you flip, that do things, and you could, I don't know, spend points on them like endless spells or something like that. Would have been quite cool because lethal surprise from the dirty tricks, the 2 we've just read there, they're doing all these sneaky things, which is cool. But I like that Spiker Seeds. Good combined with
it's good.
Good combined with Standing Fire.
I think it's probably a bad meta choice right now, just because there's so many armies that don't have big units in them. But historically, this would have been great, and I'm sure at some point the meta will change to back to units, and this will be really good. So good artifact, just not its time quite yet.
Well, that's where I normally stop myself a little bit here and think, right, how tempted am I the 2 or more artifacts in this faction? Amulet of Destiny, we've already said there's a nice buff model that needs a save, but it can get that from Egomaniac. in this one if you wanted as well. Or there's 2 chances to protect your big monsters. One could have Egomaniac, one could have Amulet of Destiny if you had multiples. I'm not sure I want to chase artifacts with these.
I think Amulet of Destiny and Arcane Tomb, depending on what you're doing with the army, are the only things that you would probably care about right now compared to these artifacts. I think
I do like the Eye Pebble.
I like the Eye Pebble. I just it's a bit short duration for me. If it was until the next turn or something like that, and protected you against shooting on the double or something like that, I would be well into it. I think it might just be a little bit, maybe just a bit on the weak side. And I also think, I haven't gone through more of this army. I don't think there's a lot you can do to help this army's survivability other than kill everything before it hits you. And I'm not sure a 5-up ward does enough to cancel out drop control as being a better way of making sure that you hit them before they hit you.
Yeah. Another reason I'd look more at this is I'm not sure this is like a 1-drop army particularly, so I think you're already opening yourself up to playing Warlord and whatnot. Cool. Well, that's all the Kruelboyz part of it. Now, do you think, would you like to cover Kruelboyz in full now?
Yeah, I think I'd like to go to Kruelboyz War Scrolls and everything now.
Yeah.
And
well, let's hit the spells and the War Scrolls, and we'll tackle the factions one at a time. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, mount traits. We sum up them there for everybody.
Oh yeah, they're
is that all right? Yeah.
These are so good compared to the Stormcast ones.
So what have we got? 6 here. Toughen. So monster only. Unless it's had. This model has had half its wounds taken, it uses top row. I'm not saying that very well, but that's basically it, right?
Yeah.
And monsters only. Next one, amazing. Fasten. Once per battle in your hero phase, can make a normal move.
Whoa.
Lovely.
Whoa. Big deal.
Yeah. And then meaning, monster only. So this is when you carry out the stomp monstrous rampage. The enemy takes D6 mortal wounds on a 2+ instead of D3. Pretty cool as well.
That's very good. I think I like that one a lot because if you're not going to try and fasten something into the enemy army, which Kruelboyz aren't in a lot of builds, I really like this one because it gives that monster that you've got a lot more chunky combat potential.
Yeah, but when we think about that later, the more crushers and whatnot is even more in it. So Loudon, and this is again monster only. When you do the roar, it's all enemy within 3 instead of 1. Okay, but
yeah, I don't really rate that.
Then Weirden, boo, nerfed. 4+ ward against mortal wounds caused by spells and the abilities of endless spells.
Yeah, I don't like it so much.
So mortals against spells and the abilities of endless spells.
No, it's against so endless spells aren't spells anymore. They very specifically call them. It's a war scroll with abilities. So it's not 4+ against the effects. It's 4+ against mortals caused by endless spell abilities. So it is only a 4+ against mortal wounds.
Against mortals,
yeah.
Game. Just nice protection over Struggle Lambert Light and things like that, which is obviously always to stand out. And then a Smellion. Maximum hit rolls for attacks, maybe melee weapons that target it if it has not made a charge.
It's okay.
There's loads of good ones there, but I think we love Mean and love Fasten, right?
Yeah, I love Meaning and I love Fasten, and I also like Smellion as well. It's a lot of them slow Kruelboyz monsters are gonna get charged, and in some builds you want them to get charged, sort of, because they're the thing that's blocking up the board while you're shooting stuff, firing and stuff. So I like that one too.
Yeah, I think you could chase these with enhancements as well, couldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely could see yourself having a fast vulture or something, and maybe a mean crocodile. Could be quite cool. So
yeah.
Right. Oh, Kruelboyz spells.
Oh dear. Someone was this was the guy who wrote the Lumineth spell law, I think, rather than the guy who wrote the Soulblight spell laws. I'm gonna guess.
All right. A Black Pit. Cast on a 7, range 12, enemy unit within range and visible, dice for each model, on a 6, and for each of the roll lies equal or greater than the save, takes a mortal wound. Good nuke. Good nuke against the right target.
Yeah, it's okay. Again, I think right now, that's not the greatest thing in the world. But against a 30-man unit of 4-up save things, if they come back into fashion, it's mortals on a 4, which is good. Does cast on a 7 though, range 12, bit short. So I can't see.
It's not awful against like 5 Stormcast though either.
No.
Like sometimes when you scramble around for a nuke and you're like, what can I need to get that model off. It's all right.
I can't see you putting that on a wizard though. Over some of the other spells.
Oh no.
Yeah,
true. Probably never see it. I think the big lad knows them all, doesn't he? Choking Mist, casting value 7, range 24. Always gets me excited. Pick a point on the battlefield within range, invisible to the caster. All units, not enemy, you two, within 6 of that point are affected by Choking Mist. Until the start of your affected by Choking Mist until the start of your next hero phase. While a unit is affected by Choking Mist, subtract 1 from their attacks and melee weapons. Minimum 1, and it cannot run.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, isn't it? It's so good for you've got to aim it quite right when you're fighting. It's not that hard to aim right, but when you're in combat with them and you're both fighting, you've got to be careful. But stopping like loads of stuff running when they want to do that run battle tactics amazing, or stopping people getting on objectives if they would just roll a 1 and I'm in range on the objective, first turn push outs and stuff like that.
Just
that one's really good.
24-inch range, I mean, it's just not a range that you ever see on spells in Age of Sigmar. And, we've reviewed the Stormcast book. They've got a 24-inch range spell on this dragon where it's like casts on a 9 and he's 600 points and all that. And it was like a little bit of a special thing. But this 24-inch range with a 6-inch area effect, so effectively 30-inch range, and it's going to hit, easily. That's a 12-inch radius circle. It easily hits someone's entire army, or most of their army, not running on the first turn and getting -1 to their attacks. If you're going to charge them, or if they're going to charge you, this is like a bonkers. This spell to me reads much more like the War Scroll spell of a special character, rather than just something that goes in a lore, because it's a bit much. And the only saving grace is it casts on a 7. But I think this spell's a little bit, could have been toned down a little bit for me.
Hey, sit to your left, like bit. Sneaky Miasma next. Caster value 6, range 18. Kruelboyz monster within range and visible. That monster can make a normal move.
Crazy.
Boss. So this is another way we're saying about, like, obviously pushing your monsters up the board if you wanted to, get them in combat early. It's the type of thing you can cast from the back of the board out of unbound range of the enemy. It's got a low casting value. So you can definitely easily chuck vultures into people if you wanted to. Maybe crocodiles, but they're a bit slower.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not that bad if you're like 18-inch gap. You can just rocks up, couldn't you?
Yeah, and you can also give them fasten, and then they've got 2 moves. You can literally move a unit to anywhere on the board with those 2 things. You just go round someone's army and then have your normal move and then charge or whatever. It's crazy.
I think this will shine for the Kruelboyz as an objective play during the game more than some sort of alpha rush, because they just probably don't have the models to support that. But I can definitely see like, I'm just going to get all the way over there now. This vulture, like you say, maybe 36 inches or something. So I think it's good. It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
Nasty Hex then. Casting value 7, range 12. Pick an enemy unit until the end of your turn. Ward rolls cannot be made for models in that unit.
Yeah. Dislike that this spell exists.
And you like it?
I don't like it. It's cast on a 7 and range 12. So, little bit, bit hard to use. But there's just so many units in the game that are pointed to a very large degree based on the fact that they've got a ward. And I don't think, again, particularly you look at this coming out at the same time as Stormcast, a lot of the characters have very low wounds, but they give them a 4-up ward. And, I know Croak's not everyone's favorite model, but, same kind of thing. Like, I just don't think that In like this is the same in terms of attacks or whatever, saying that something just like gets no attacks or you loses its save and throw or whatever. It's too much of an effect for me. I think it's a bit too much. And hopefully it stays unique and we don't end up starting to see this in a bunch of other armies or something. But yeah, I don't like it. I mean, there are some things in the game that maybe have a bit too much of a ward right now, but I think that's the game's problem, and putting a spell in that ignores it is not the idea way around it. So yeah, I don't like the fact that this exists. Makes me a bit sad, but it's a great spell for if you're a Kruelboyz player.
Yeah, don't completely agree, but like some situations, like I dig, it's like, oh, your undead unit has nothing now, where it's like definitely that type of thing I'm into. It's like your whole army has this thing, I feel it there. Like I've give this guy Amulet of Destiny, now I'll take it off. Yeah, I think that plays okay. That type of stuff that's going on, or put some buff on someone, or you've popped up some ability and you're countering with other abilities. But yeah, maybe not like the whole armies it's baked into. Yeah, no, not great. Like no one wants to see this on Hearthguard Berserkers, do they, Ian?
No, exactly.
No.
Yeah, it wouldn't be cool.
Everyone's favourite thing, Hearthguard, isn't it? Just standing there. So it's
apparently unfair. Not right now. It's not. I think this could have been, if you think about it, this could have been like -1 to ward saves, and if it takes it to a 7, you don't get one or whatever. You can still interact with those things without needing to completely strip a core mechanic of a war scroll off. I just think it's a bit too much. But if you're a Kruelboyz player, great spell. Especially if the meta moves into people alpha striking melees, which I think is going to be a thing that's going to start to happen now, is people are going to be dropping big things with Amulet of Destiny a lot of the time that are going to try and alpha strike your army. And if you've got this guy defensively, he can take that off, and then you shoot him, and then he's a lot easier to kill.
Look, you've highlighted it already. It is 7. It is range 12. They don't have casting bonuses, guys. There's basically nothing there for them. There's some bits in Big War, so they're just naturally rolling these or praying for arcane. So there is all that going on as well. Right. I was not reading them anymore. We're gonna look at the Kruelboyz Warclans next.
Warclans.
So 3 different Warclans. So Grinning Blades, Big Yellows, and Skullbugs. So the Grinning Blades, during the first battle round, friendly Grinning Blades units are not visible to any models that are more than 12 away. Stand out, amazing. Shame Lumineth can see them.
I think that on its own makes
I hate that conversation constantly. It's really annoying, isn't it? What a good ability, really, except the Sentinels can always see.
Yeah, like that. They're putting stuff in the. I mean, even the mechanics that came in 3rd edition, being able to hide behind things. A general spell that turns something into an obscure piece of terrain, all those things that come in Lumineth, not at all. And that's one of the reasons that people are going about Lumineth stuff, because stuff that is broken, sort of like by definition, is stuff that warps the entire game around it. And that's what Sentinels do. They just ignore so many mechanics and so many mitigations against what they do, that it just makes things no fun. Like, this is great. You would take this a lot, and shooting armies shouldn't be. I think pretty clear my opinion on shooting armies in Age of Sigmar. I think they largely ruin a lot of the game. And things like this would make people play less shooting armies if it was effective. But I think realistically, you're not going to take this because Lumineth exists. And that's 50% of the shooting armies you're going to play against, at least. It's just wasted.
Let's see what more pops up. But yeah.
Although it does stop people casting lambent light on you, though. Which is a thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it is good for that. It stops the Daughters armies, which is the popular one right now.
Which is the other half. Which is the other half of the shooting armies. Yeah.
It's a few things. All right. Okay. Big Yellows. Now, in addition to what I'm going to read for Big Yellows is they make Bolt Boys battle line. Okay, so that's key. So you add 3 to the range of missile weapons used by Big Yellows. And in the first battle round, Each time a friendly big yellow's Orruk unit shoots, you can reroll one of the hit rolls for one of the attacks made by that unit, and these guys hit on it, probably with their range 1 shooting anyway.
Yeah.
If they're even in range, though.
Yeah.
So I think that is a real factor with that second rule. You know, it's only range 27 long range. No.
Yeah.
Would avoid that if you do and took those rerolls away and not take a round of shooting turn 1, because as soon as they move, it goes to range 12, right?
Yeah.
Am I making that up, or is it just
you're
go
right.
to bad to shoot?
Yeah, that's correct. It does go to 12. Yeah, I think again the considerations in there are you can avoid them doing that to you on turn 1, but again, if the Kruelboyz army gives you turn 1, forces you to make some movement, and has done things like redeploy its units or taken some of your units off the board with the dirty tricks and stuff like that. There's loads of ways to make that work. It's the hit rolls. It's the hit rolls for me as well. You know, like, yeah, you can avoid all that stuff, but you can't avoid the kill bows.
Your opponent might go first as well, so it might just be in range.
Yeah, exactly. And that rerolls thing, like Ritchie said, you know, these all hit on 2s pretty much. And importantly, the kill bows, which are very good, have just got 1 shot. So getting a reroll on your 1 big shot is a big deal. So, but more than anything, I think, even if this ability did nothing, making Bolt Boys battle line would be like an allegiance ability in itself in this army. So
it is unfortunate. It does make it hard to not play big yellows, I feel.
Yeah.
Okay. Skull, particularly because like +3 range, right? 24 to 27, fine. 12 to 15 is another conversation, isn't it? You know, it's like opens up a lot more.
24 to 27 is a big deal as well, because you know, they can't move. We talk about this Warclans move, but they obviously can't move if they're keeping their 24. So it goes from only being able to hit their frontline unit to hitting the characters behind them if they haven't purposely set them up further back. So that extra 3 it just goes that bit deeper into their deployment zone on turn 1.
And then the last ones, you know what? I don't even know what this one does. When an enemy unit is picked to fight, roll dice. If it's within 3 of any friendly Skullbugs units, add 2 to the roll. The enemy is in 3 of any friendly Skullbugs monsters on a 6 -1 hit rolls. Yeah, not very good, that one. Cool.
I mean,
should we hit the wall?
I like that one. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think if you were gonna, in isolation, I think it's all right. But obviously, once we get to the War Scrolls, there's maybe not that much case for it. But I do think if you're gonna play monsters in your face army, which I do think is a thing you can do with Kruelboyz, I think that's the choice for me. Probably.
Yeah,
I think it's better.
Cool. I'm going to skip the battle tangent, the battle, the grand strats and whatnot, and the battle tactics. Okay, we'll talk about them once we've summed up all the factions. Okay.
Yeah.
They're not that all that in this one. A couple of okay ones. Right. Got Kragnos. He's in this book.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah. Hi, Kragnos.
All right. So let's look at Gobsbrack, the Mouth of Gork. So this is the Wizard Vulture.
Don't get that wrong on podcast.
Mouth of Mork, sorry.
Yeah, on stream.
So he's a 14 wound, top bracket move 14 model with a 5+ save and 6 bravery. Okay, he's got an okay amount of attacks. Ian, how would you sum that up? He's got what, like?
So I mean, I sum it up as mostly I generally just tend to total up the damage as long as they haven't got any terrible hit and ruin rolls. But he's got like what, 14, 15, 16. He's got like 16, almost 20 points of damage, pretty much. Yeah. And all of that damage can be mortals with include the vulture itself can do mortals, even though it's a mount.
They're throwing 10 dice looking for the mortals there as well, you know, mostly 2 damage, some D3 damage, 1 D6. So there's quite a bit of a spike for mortals because they've got this ability that a lot of the monsters have, the bigger ones, where, like we said, they've poisonous fangs and not as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, it flies. He casts 2 wizards that he can unbind, 2 as well, and he knows all the spells from the Lore of the Swamp. So, like we said there, some of them you would have to pick some of the better ones, but all 4 of them are good, aren't they? So
Yeah.
I do think it's nice for him that he knows them all. So
Yeah.
some good spells that they might not see the table otherwise. Okay, so he's got a 6+ ward. He's got Mork Says No. Now, each time he unbind a spell, the caster suffers D3 mortal wounds, and if it was unbound on a 10+, they take D6 mortal wounds.
Yeah, nice ability.
Really, really strong one of those ones. Really good.
And he's got 2 unbinds a turn, don't forget. So he's got just some free mortals coming out there, which I like, yeah.
And let's say now as well, you've got a once per battle, you can make an unbind on 3d6 as well. So you've really got that chance to spike down a small enemy wizard or finish off an enemy wizard who's maybe took up wounds. It'll affect the other person's casting and how they want to resolve things and that. So
turn 1, Lambent Lightcaster, unbind it on 3d6, look for the 10, spike your d6 roll. Guy's not on the board anymore.
Yeah.
That's what we do. It's not hard. I mean, 3d6 averages an 11. So on average, you get your d6 mortal wounds. So all you've got to do is roll a 5 up. And,
it's good. You roll a 6 or it's techless or whatever. But,
are they 6 wounds? Is either low secret? Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Low secret 6, yeah. But anyway,
the potential of
it's good. But the big part is you get to stop. You get to stop it.
Yeah, yeah. And, again, that might not be the spiky thing that happens, but you do it turn 1, then again turn 2, and then he dies, much more easily because he's taken all the mortals, and then he's gone for good. And just a good ability. A lot of mortals stacking up over the course of the game, potentially.
You put if you do it to a Lumineth unit, put a battle shock roll on them, which is a pain in the butt for Lumineth, taking multiple battle shock rolls and draining your CP. It's an absolute nightmare. And maybe stops one of them being a wizard. Okay, so when this unit issues the redeploy command to Kruelboyz units, you can re-roll the dice that determines the distance. And when you unleash Hell, you don't have to take -1 to hit off either. It's really two fantastic ones there, aren't they, really? So the re-roll and the redeploy is...
Yeah, big. Redeploy rolls are like game-changing rolls. When you roll that 5 or 6 on a redeploy and just cancel a charge at a key moment, it can be a game changer, and that's a big deal. The Unleash Hell one's obviously also obviously nice, but
of course it's good, especially like we said, we might have 2+ to hit units, still hitting on 2+, so could be pretty decent. And then he's got a really good spell as well. Cast on a 7, add 1 to charge rolls for friendly Kruelboyz Orruks, and subtract 1 from charge rolls for other units on the battlefield.
No range.
So it's not unique to him, but it's good.
Yeah.
What do you think of him?
So he does a load of stuff, right?
300 points.
Yeah, 300. That's all. I was just about to go, but he does a load of stuff. He's better in combat than you would expect because of his mortals on a 6. He's got 14 wounds, 5 up save is crap, but he's got 14 wounds, which is a good buffer. He's got a 6 up ward, and he does all sorts of stuff. 300 points. He's pretty aggressively costed for all his abilities, in my opinion. He does a lot.
Yeah, I agree.
I think he's very good. Yeah, and he's also not linked to a specific faction either, so he can be any one of those factions. I think he's brilliant. I don't think he's auto include because there's loads of ways you can go with building these lists, but he does a lot of stuff. I think
I'm finding him in less than more.
Yeah.
The hell are those words? But yeah, I'm definitely using them in less of the lists that are right. But
less than you expect.
Okay. Yeah. The other side to this kit is the Killer Boss on Corpse Ripper Vulture. So 14 wounds. This one's got a 4+ save though. And he got still got the movement 14. This guy's got better damage, bunch more attacks on his main weapon. So you're looking at 10, 14, possible 20 on this guy, but there's a D6 roll in there as well. Low rend, all these models are low rend 1, which is obviously disappointing, but you've got the chance for the mortals talked about already. It's pretty simple model this really. He's got a battle shock immunity if he's within 3 of a Kruelboyz model, and the second ability he's got is he can issue a command that has already been issued. So he can't issue 2, But if someone else has done stand and shoot, let's say, you can issue a second stand and shoot. So
on a different
quite a nice way to get around. We've seen see this quite a lot in this book. There's Stormcast's got a little bit of doing some extra command stuff, but nothing compared to these guys, right? So
and Stormcast take through the nose for it, seemingly on their abilities, and these don't.
This is only 240. This is pretty cheap.
Yeah, this is a standout war scroll for me, because I think on first glance, when you look at it, like, its attack profile's not the best, but it's got good raw numbers in damage potential, even though it hasn't got the best hits and that, but it does mortals. But then you think you can do 2 commands, a second redeploy or a second stand and shoot can be quite clutch. Or a second save bonus if you've got more than one vulture flying around. The battle shock thing's neither in or there, but ultimately, like, a 14-inch move monster with decent combat stats and a 4-up save, 14 wounds for only 240 points is aggressively costed. And I think you could. This is the scroll that makes me feel like there's a good monster army in this book, not because the monsters you got flying around in the Kruelboyz faction are particularly impressive, but because you can get lots of them and then still have 1,000 points to play with to do other things in the army as well. And have 4 of these things flying around. They're not individually incredible, but you got to remember 3 of them can fight in a row because of the battle trait. So all of a sudden, 3 of these jumping something is actually a lot of damage. And it's just a lot of pieces. It's a lot of good pieces that can do a lot of things on the board while still maintaining a real army because they're so cheap. So I like them. I really do.
They're in the bleed victory points and bleed battle tactics realm, though. These, unfortunately, aren't they? Of course, they do give you. Obviously, they enable you to get some. They give them away easy as well, which is why I'm maybe not feeling them so much and haven't got them in my list. But I think decent model. A lot of these are no different to the War Scroll, to the Dominion. Now, really, we've got 2 killer bosses. We've got one on a Great Gnash Tooth and a Stab Grot one. The Great Gnash Tooth one's got a 3 save, 10 wounds, which is not bad. I think he's points. Yeah, and the little one. I don't know. You got any thoughts on these two?
Again, I think the theme going through these points versus what they do. Not that they're all you're going to use them all necessarily, but 10 wounds and a 3+ save and 16 points of damage, half of which is Rend 2, +1 to hit on the charge as well. He's actually got a really good attack profile. 170 points is a good solid points value, and I don't think that's too much for what he does. I think that's actually fine, and you probably actually won't see him that much. It just throws into context when you see other heroes that cost 220, 230 and have less wounds than this or worse attack profiles, and this is well costed for what it does. You're probably still not going to see it.
I think that's why you skip over both of these. Yeah, they are. Yeah,
I do think if you're playing that much play, if you want to try and play some like Orc-based Kruelboyz where you're actually trying to do something that looks fun, and you're going to go and try it at one day, or you're going to try it 1,000-point event or something, this is a decent model to be putting on the table for that kind of less serious thing.
Now, the other one here you got in the kit was the Merc Knob with Belcher banner. So this was a 95-point model, and it does have a really good, banner ability on this. Kruelboyz Orruk's wholly within 12 at 5+. You ignore the spell or the effects of that endless spell on the unit.
Yeah,
good one, right? Like basically he's not in any lists I'm going to put out there, but he's a relevant model, right? Do you think? Or
I think 95 points nowadays for a model with any buff is actually very cheap. Like almost everything, even with basic buffs, have gone up to 120, 130, 140 plus nowadays. I think right now, because there's so many monster-based armies running around, or people that don't care about magic, especially when this book drops and Stormcast, maybe a lot less magic focused in a lot of ways. Now is not a great time for him, but 95 points for a spell, 5+ spell ignore bubble is really good. It's a brilliant ability. Yeah.
Probably just one Call of Shaman right at 105. Okay, and a unit that you can always have more of, you can always take a use of. The reason that this guy is lucky, he's a 1-cast wizard. Fine, you've seen how good the spell lore is as well. So great to have these. Great to have access to spell lore. What these do, they have a poisons and elixir. So basically, they can give up their casting or spell attempts and whatnot, and they can pick a friendly Kruelboyz unit wholly within 12. It's not within 3 of enemy models, and it has at least 1 model within 3. So basically, a unit not in combat that you're next to, wholly within 12. They can be given a poison or an elixir. Elixir's +1 save, but poison do their mortals on a 5+.
Yeah.
So this is, obviously a key buff piece to the army. This is what a lot of the army, rightly or wrongly, will cycle around. It can be used on all these monsters we've talked about, all the guns, all the shooting, everything.
You can't use it on units when they're in melee, so it pushes you more in the direction of shooting again to make use of how good that buff is. Yeah.
105 points, really cheap.
All my armies started with 2 of these pretty much when I was writing lists, like 2 of these in the army to start with. And then
it did for me as well. It tailed off as I figured something else out a little, but still a lot of them did have 2 in it. So good, and because you want the spells, there's 2 of those spells you want. So Gut Rippers.
Yeah.
So this is the only battle line in Kruelboyz, unless you're big yellows. Okay.
Yeah.
These are 180 points for 10 models with 2 wounds. They have got this attack profile, which is 4s, no rem, 1 damage, but they've got 2 attacks each, and they've got a range 2. They do mortals on 6s.
Yeah.
Buffed on 5s. They
plus
do
1
nothing
charges.
Special.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus 1 for charges, and they can make someone -1 to hit if they roll above the bravery, right?
Yeah. It's a bit of a weird ability. It's a bit overcomplicated. If you're more than 3 from an enemy, you can use the ability to be -1 to hit. And then you charge them. Before you go in, you make the -1 to hit, which is like, okay.
Or they charge you. But and they've only got a 5-up save. They're obviously like, you're looking at Warclans isolation, right? They're a super weak unit, okay? You agree, right?
Yeah, I mean they're a basic unit.
Yeah,
they're a very basic unit.
Unit. A costly battle line investment, right? 180. No, it's not real top end of. Everyone gets to do min battle line for not a lot of points, and they really get to do that. So 540, right, for 3. So it's quite a lot. There's some obvious buffs, right? From Call of Shaman on 5s, but we've already said about melee. And then the next piece is going to increase that as well. So these are the swamp bosses. What are they called? Snatcher bosses. There's a named one and a non-named one. So let's do the non-named one and then just throw the extra ones on top. Yeah? So the non-named one this is the crocodile models. So it's 14 wounds, move 8, 4+ save. So nice, tough profile, respectable speed for a walking monster. Got a hell of a lot of attacks with a hell of a lot of potential damage. We've got 9, 21.
Yeah, they're on about 30 potential 30 damage. Yeah. Most of it only ran 1. Most of it only went run, but a lot of it on 3s and 3s or 3s and 2s. So it's pretty consistent as well.
Yeah, it's decent. And again, all the attacks on the mount get the venom encrusted weapons on this as well. So all of that, you've got mortals going for you as well, and we're talking like 13 dice or 12 dice. So a decent fighting model, isn't it? Really, it's pretty good.
I mean, it's 315 points, so it's a good fighting model. Like all those things do mortals on 6s again, so it's a good fighting model.
And all of these 6s are multiple damage on this. There's no 1s hanging around there. It's all 2s. You're getting extra bits out there. So okay, and then this is its big thing: Sludge Raker Venom. You add 1 to the number of mortal wounds caused by the venom encrusted weapons battle trait. Your multiple hit roll was a 6, and the attacker unit is wholly within 12 of any friendly units with this ability. This guy up nice and close, probably within 12 of the enemy. You're gonna be doing loads more damage with all your guns, all your fighting, everything. So, and
It's
it's
the
only
attacking unit.
six.
It's the attacking unit, not the target.
Oh yeah, sorry, the attacking unit. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
So your unit's wholly within 12. Apologies. I actually thought it was that. I sort of backtracked and was like, whoa, I read this wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, amazing ability. 5s don't do double mortals or don't do one extra mortal. It says that in the designer's note here, which would get from the shaman. But E-piece auto include every army, at least one of them, right? You can't not take it.
Yeah, I mean, super powerfully statted monster for its points just at a baseline, and then very obvious auto include, and just in a couple of pages of the book, very obvious the army is now railroaded into stacking mortals on 6s. That's what the army is going to do, because there's no way you're going to do anything more powerful than that. Then mortals on a 5s on mortals +1 on a 6. It's not going to happen. So we've railroaded the army into being a mortal wound shooting army now, by the fact that those two pieces exist, which is in a shame in a lot of ways, because as we were just talking about the gut rippers there up above, once you put all the buffs on them, all these buffs in the context of putting them on gut rippers would make gut rippers playable and maybe even decent if they were doing loads of mortals in melee. But why, when you could just put it on shooting units instead? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it feels like a lot of these things, if you look at them, you go, that ability is powerful, but fine, because it's on a bunch of guys with spears. Obviously, then there's a bunch of shooting guys to turn up in the book in a minute.
Yeah. And it can kill a model once per battle at the end of the combat phase. 2d6 greater than the wounds it's slain. Got to have 7 or wounds or less, though, and not be mounted. So, a good way to stick something in the bag and grab it. So, like we said, there's a named character version of this, which is only 5 points more, so he's 320. And he has all the same things we talked about there, but he has an extra wound. He has one extra attack on one of the good profiles, but the damage is lower on it, so it comes out in the wash really.
That's the same,
yeah. And he has a little bit extra damage on one of the bites. And he's got 2. He's got 1 extra silly rule, bet master. You're gonna have hobgrots and place a bet and get an extra triumph maybe in the battle, so. It's a rare one if you're going to take that. I think, you got 5 points to spend. You want an extra wound. You don't want to put artifacts on him, which I think's unlikely. I don't think the name one's the choice. But you liked it a little bit more in places, didn't you, than me? But
yeah, there was a couple of times where I didn't particularly, where I was playing this model basically just to sit there and be a buff piece, and I didn't particularly care about putting the artifact on him. And so, just having an extra wound on that for 5 points and using a different artifact on someone else. I think I was using Arcane Tomb on something or whatever. Was fine. He's Grinning Blades locked in as well, but the Allegiance, if you're going to take big yellows, wouldn't do anything for him anyway, so it sort of doesn't matter. So I think it's much of a muchness. It really depends on the artifact. He's 5 points and you get a very minor buff. I
just feel like Egomaniac might want to be on that, for the shrug onto some gut rips or some hobgrots or something. So I think maybe the other one. But yeah, great piece, really important, key part of the army. You're going to see it in everything. Now the next one is standard model, the Mark Crawler Slogoth. This is a 12 wounds, move 6, 4 up save model, 150 points. It's got a whatever attack profile. 8 attacks, possible damage 12, but some ways to hit, no rend or rend 1. It's got pick an enemy model within 2 and roll a dice. If it's at least double the wounds characteristic slain, that's the end of the combat phase. It regens on a 4+D3 wounds a turn. The big one, Crew Drummer. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by friendly units that are wholly within 18 of any model with disability. Just a bonkers buff, right?
Yeah, I just don't Again, it's like what you want on your buff pieces, because they're often going to get shot by mortal wounds. There's just loads of wounds. So
And a regen.
having a buff piece that's 12 wounds that doesn't die to chip damage because of its regen is actually okay in combat, and kills a random model in combat with it every turn. But has a massive bubble of +1 to hit, and then you think, okay, this is the decent. How many points is it? 150. Like, that's 100. You pay 100 more points than that for that in most armies. Like, I don't. Again, it's one of them things where you just look at it and you're like, sure, yeah, we want to sell some of these. You're gonna. There's the stats for it. Like, but again, when you look at it with its companion book that's coming out in the Stormcast, and you look at the buffs that are on there, super hard to find +1 to hit. You're paying 200 points for a unit that's got to wound something before it gives +1 to hit, or you're buying a character for 170 that's got a 9-inch range, +1 to hit versus one unit, and has only got 6 wounds. And there's no in the way that they cost units generally. This is just completely out of whack with the way units are costed. If this was a 5-wound guy, you'd still pay 150 points for him and auto include him in most of your melee armies anyway. But being a 12-wound guy with regen and a 4-up save, just like, boss, very good.
Yeah. Outrageous ally as well. Fabulous Gloom Spike Gits, Beast Claw, Ogres, like Big War, who's where you
super good in Big War.
See it if you wanted it with the Ironjawz. You want to get everything twos, all your Maw Crushers twos, Brutes, everything. You put it in Kruelboyz, all your monsters, nearly everything's to 2 to hit. No, that changes every round. This might be the model that you need to redeploy up the board. You can probably just auto run at 12 and get it in range of all your stuff if you're going to do some alpha and things.
Yeah, you probably don't even need to auto run it. Just even a 1 on a run gives you 25 inches worth of bubble from your setup.
What a model.
The model itself is fine. I think the buff, in the context of the way some of the more recent books have gone with buffs, the buffs have been toned down quite a lot, and to see one with such a big range and a blanket +1 to hit, not tied to keywords, not picking one enemy unit, any of that is again 250 points. You'd still be taking this because it's buffed so good, and it's very tough for that. To see it at 150 is just crazy.
Yeah, +1 to hits around a fair bit more than it was, but it just frees up so many command points for you to this, and more importantly, frees up you being able to be offensive in the combat phase and defensive with the same unit. You can do the +1 to hit and the +1 defense, or +1 to hit and whatever your army does to the unit when it fights right. Being able to do 2 command abilities in the same combat phase. What a model.
Yeah,
right. I'm not sure how.
What I was getting at with the +1 to hit, obviously a lot of things that were rerolls have gone +1 to hit. It's everywhere, but it tends to be a lot shorter, and a lot of the time, your guy who's given the buff out's got to be like wholly within 12 of the unit it's buffing. So if that unit's charged, it can actually be quite hard to keep your bubble going and all that kind of stuff. And the bubble on this is just so giant. It's actually what you want to see in a lot of units, but to get it for also that point cost is incredible. And this will be just good for so many armies.
So we got the breaker boss on Mere Brute Trogoth now. So this is the guy standing on the back of the troll. Well, do you know how many points he is up top you already?
Yeah. I've actually forgot, but I've been raging about this guy all week. So I really should know. He is where am I looking? He's like 5. He's stupidly cheap. I'm having a moment and I can't see this in my show notes.
I can't see it either on the thing now. Breaker boss, just start with them. 180.
Okay. 180. Yeah, he's really cheap.
Yeah, he's pretty cheap, right? So look, he's got 12 wounds, 4-up save, move 5. Really good weapon attack profile, which we will run down. So he's got 5 attacks, 3s, no rend damage 2. And then the clubs, which is on the troll, is 4 attacks, 3s, rend 3 damage. So obviously a real attack profile, decent rend. Not seeing it a lot in the army otherwise. And at the start of the combat phase, you can yank his harness, and it takes D3 mortal wounds, but you add 2 to the Ironbound clubs, one which is the big one that we just talked about. So 6 attacks, 3s, rend 2 damage, and a 4+. gen rule as well. This isn't a monster, which I think is probably good and bad on this type of unit. So I don't think you can just say, oh, it's bad, he's not a monster. I think it works both ways because of battle tactics and that work. But I think this is a fine unit, but is not very interesting and doesn't bring anything to the army. And I don't think there's any play. But you got anything different on it, or?
So is 5 base attacks with no rend can do mortals to start with, because that's the guy on the back doing the attacks. And then it's got 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, 2 rend, 3 damage. You know, you always got to pull that. You're always going to yank the harness. So effectively, 18 wounds worth of damage going on there, which is just really high. I think for 180 points, although his move is the thing that holds him back. Again, 12 wounds and a 4-up on a model with this amount of damage for 180 points, and he's a hero, so he's there to issue commands, I think is really good. And again, I think it's just like, although you say it's a boring model, it's just a destruction guy who wants to go and fight things, right? It's just so efficient in terms of points, though. You know, like if people want to come and fight you, if you're going to go and be fighting somewhere, the damage that puts out for 180 points is really, really high. And, you know, it depends how you approach it. If you look for tricks in your competitive armies and you want like a clever thing that you're going to do, then fine. But you can just look at things that have just got good raw numbers and win games on that. That's basically what Orruk did in the last sort of season of the game. They did nothing really special. The army was just had great numbers, and this guy's got great numbers. I think he's really good. I think I do think he can see play at, you know, in the army that is just obviously so good in this book. No one's going to competitively play anything else. Sure, you know, he's probably not going to make it into that. But outside of that, or if you were going to play Big War and you got some points that you don't want to spend on more troops on the board, you just need a hero. He's a really good one, I think.
I see that role. That's fair. Hobgrot Slitters. Look, these are the same as they were in the book. Really, guys, the chaff, they're 80 points for 10 of them. Save one with them. They don't do anything, but their attack profiles are like okay as these things go, right? Like they got a range 8 shot, 4s, 3s, round 1. That's okay.
For 80 points, it's pretty good.
The combat attack is 4s, 5s, but 6s are 2 hits. Like they're okay. Why no synergy at all? I get it. Like maybe they're just slaves, right? No synergy because they're just slaves. Like,
it feels like between this and the thing that someone's spotted, like Hashut gets mentioned in the book somewhere or something. I think these seem to exist as a foreshadowing for Chaos Dwarfs for me. Like, I'm pretty sure they're just there for that reason. Do they get venom encrusted weapons? Does it say anywhere that they don't get it?
Not Kruelboyz. Oh, no, they are Kruelboyz.
Yeah, they are.
So they got venom encrusted.
So actually, they have anti-synergy with that because their 2 hits rule doesn't actually do anything because you're going to take the mortal every time as well.
Maybe it says Orruk.
Yeah, maybe.
You know,
I'm not sure.
They get it for the Orruk.
Yeah, and obviously, if you took them in Big War,
it's only Orruks.
Only Orruks.
Oh, they are an Orruk? No, they're not. They're Orruk Warclans. Yeah, they don't get it.
So yeah, I don't think you're going to see them played much. But again, 80 points left in your army. Want to jam a screen unit in? It's always nice having access to something cheap, just because sometimes you can't spend your points. So, I don't think that's a problem with this army because it's got so much cheap stuff already that you can probably always make it work. But it's maybe an option there.
Assembled 40 Zenithal highlighted with 3 dry brushes, all 40 of them, and then put the contrast down on the flesh for all.
And then put them on the shelf.
Then it stopped. Because I thought I was being silly without reading the book, and glad I stopped, but did waste some time.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Here is the book.
Yeah.
Man Skewer Bolt Boys. Okay, so these are 120 points for 3 models, move 5, 2 wounds, 6+ save. All right. The leader gets an extra shot. Okay, so 4 shots, and this is the profiles. So you've got aim shot, which you're going to probably see most commonly, and the one you're probably trying to use is range 24, one shot, 2s, 3s, rem 1, 2 damage. And if you're hasty, you half the range to 12, but you get 2 attacks, hits on 4s. But obviously you can get +1 to hit, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
You can only fire the aim one. You can only what am I saying here? You can only fire the aim one if you didn't move.
Yeah, well, and you don't get a choice either, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
If you don't move, you've got to fire the aim one. If you move, you've got to fire the hasty, which will be relevant sometimes. So 120 points for 4 shots, 2s and 3s, rem 1, 2 damage, and they do mortals on a 6 is already pretty good. But then, obviously, all the buffs we've spoken about, mortals on a 5.
Yeah, so, and it's not one mortal on a 6. It's not one mortal. I didn't even factor that. It's not one mortal on a 6. It's 2 mortals on a 6, right? You know?
Yeah.
It's like you say, 3 mortals on a 6 as well. 5s are multiple mortals as well. So there's
crazy powerful.
Yeah,
and really good. They have got bravery 5. So if you kill one guy in the unit, there's a good chance like multiple flee. Like, so there's definitely a good case there for like, you know, AoE in these down, or just making sure you get some damage onto any of them, which does lend some weight to some of those rules that stop more than one guy fleeing that we saw on some of the heroes, because these could be very, very, like, these could struggle a lot with battle shock. But they're very powerful, really. And again, battle line in your big yellows army, +3-inch range in your big yellows army, so 27 inches. And on the first turn, they're rerolling the 1s as well. So really good. No brainer unit that you are going to build your whole army around largely with this book.
Yeah, I forgot they were 2 damage. All my bits for my next segment are off now. I'll have to fix that. Beast Skewer Kruelboyz is the next part of this. Yeah. So this is an artillery piece, so a bit more tricky to use with the slots. 130 points, 5 wounds, move 5, 5 up, save. This is just a big Kruelboyz, right? So it's got the same hasty and aim shot, same rage, same to hit roll, same wound roll, but it's got rend 2. Now it does damage differently though. So it's got the skewered rule. So to determine the damage characteristic for an attack made with a beast goer bolt, you roll a number of dice equal to the wounds characteristic of the target unit. The damage characteristic is equal to 2 + 1 for each 5 up to a maximum damage of 12.
Yeah,
like it's obviously super good at blowing monsters up.
Insanely good. I mean, not even monsters, just heroes as well, which is the thing that other than the fact this is 130 points, and again, you look at other artillery in the game, which is generally just so bad. This is, 2 or 3 times better than what most artillery pieces do, and it's cheaper for some reason.
Yeah.
But the monster killing thing thematically, I could sort of get behind. I don't think it's cool. Like, if you're shooting this at a zombie dragon, say, right, it's going to be a damage 7 weapon. I don't think you should be giving damage 7 weapons out for 130 points. And it can obviously spike up to damage 12 as well. And it's going to be quite consistent because it's lots of dice 5s. You're going to get a fairly consistent roll. Obviously crazy good against giants, basically a 12 damage weapon against giants, which is going to cause them a lot of problems. But it's what it does against characters I rarely dislike, because it hits on a 2. Right, so it's still hitting characters on a 3, which is still a fairly reliable hit. And you get these characters with 6-8 wounds. This can easily just one-shot characters all over the place. It's going to be more often 2-shot on them, or it's going to put them down to a very low number. But that's clearly not what it's intended to do. It's meant for killing beasts, literally, as the title says. So I think it's obviously very powerful. I like that it's in the artillery slot, because when you're trying to fill out them 1-drop battalions, you get an extra slot in it to stick an artillery piece in, which a lot of armies just don't have access to a good one and can't use that. So being able to drop that in there is good.
Stops really you spamming them as well, which is also nice. Stops you spamming
them for 1-drop. Yeah. I think you got to remember as well, this also does mortals on a 6, right? So there's nothing stopping it because it's an artillery piece. So all that damage we're talking about there is also doing mortals on a 6 as well. And it's just again, it's just it does a bit too much. Like if it had have been damage for every roll of 5 up and not the +2, I don't think the +2 was like really. I was really surprised when I got to that bit because as I was reading it, I was like, okay, this sort of makes sense, but why +2? Or why cap it at 12? Cap it at 6, cap it at some reasonable number according to its points cost if it's 130 points. You know what I mean? Does a bit much for me.
Because it's when you shoot one guy in it, it's meant to do some damage when you shoot a unit as well in it. But,
yeah, of course. Yeah, and they could have kept all that and just made a number of points that reflected how much damage it does. If it was a 200-point unit and you had some spectacular gamer moments where it just like nailed a Gargant, you'd still get that, like that, beast skewer kill bow feeling from it. It'd be a reasonable number of points, but it's very cheap. Very cheap for it. It does. Very powerful. You're going to see a lot of these, and if you're playing against 2 of these and your army is Gargants, you better hope when you throw your boulders at them, you hit, because you're not going to have many Gargants on the board for long against multiple of these.
They'd probably be hidden in cover, so your boulders can't see them, maybe as well, right? Like so,
maybe, that's another good option.
Yeah, either 12 away or just because you've done that sneaky ability. So I think it's going to be hard for the Giants to get rid of these, really. That's certainly what I'd be doing against the Giants.
Yeah.
The terrain suited me.
Good shout, yeah. And it mostly will. I mean, they're 24, right? And Giants have got to come and stand in the middle of the board. So even if you don't have them turn 1. And, if you get the hasty shot off, I mean, the hasty shot on this and the man-skewer bolt boys, as long as there's no minuses to hit involved, is better than the aim shot. Like it does a slightly higher
particularly when you can, particularly because you can +1 to hit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, sorry. The hasty shot on the killbow doesn't have 2 attacks. It's still got 1, so you don't want to be doing the hasty shot with that.
Right. Yeah, but you do with the other one.
Yeah, I missed that, but yeah. So it's these are good. Every army, I think I would be certainly trying to fit in minimum 1 of these into any army just because it just does so much damage for its points. Versus all these monsters flying around at the minute.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, that's the faction. We've talked about these for quite a while, but they're the most new war scrolls. A lot of the other ones will be summing up small changes and stuff on them, or you're familiar with them. I think now, like, obviously you see where there's just these, like, obvious units, these obvious things you want to take, and how does that look as an army? And we'll talk about now briefly. So I've got quite a lot of lists in front of me. I'm going to pick one that I think is like obvious cookie cutter sort of big yellers list here. Okay, and it's a snatch boss, 2 swamp crawlers, swamp crawler shamans. Yeah. 2 units of 9 bolt boys, a unit of 3 bolt boys, 2 units of gut rippers. And then 2 big bolts, okay, at 1985. So, really simple thing here. The snatch boss buffers the mortals, swamp crawlers buff your bolt boys, 2 big units. Got another 3 there because we have to fit something in. And you got 2 units you got rippers. So you've got some models that can walk around with the snatch boss, play the front line, be the thing that gets charged for your stand and fire. Very, very simple army, right? Would you agree?
And 2 killbows. And 2 killbows.
And 2 killbows. Yeah. So I said big. Did I say big bolts? That's what I've wrote them down as. I couldn't remember
big bolts. Yeah.
So big bolts. I picked that as like a real like cookie cutter first thing you could write sort of army. Maybe the first thing you'd put on the board when you were going to try the faction out and see how it went.
And if that was all you did with your list writing, you win tournaments with that. Because
maybe
it's got a lot of it's got a lot of damage. It's got ranged. It does all the stuff. It's got a monster for grabbing some of them extra VPs. It's got 2 killbows for fighting against all these other monster lists that are running around. And it's what 2 drops that list as well.
Two drop. Yeah. It's one big bolt and then everything else in one. And that's another part of this army. You can't build 1-drop shooting lists with this army. You just can't spend the points really.
Not if you want to spend all your points on shooting. Yeah.
No. You could not buy swamp crawler shamans and buy big heroes in those slots, but I don't know where that fits your plan, you know, because you just end up about 100, even with 2 units of Gut Rippers, you end up about 180 points short or something like that, right? So it's, and then you only get one bolt thrower in there as well. So based off that, like, I do think this army is going to be minimum 2. For a shooting army, you often do want to be 1. So when I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about these big units of bolt boys, which, you know, quite easy to shoot off, easy to target, do take the buffs really well, you know, susceptible to battle shock. They lock your swamp callers into doing one thing, really buffing them. I did think how would MSU compare to that? Because you can comfortably, you know, take 2 battalions and still be 2-drop, right? And what interested me was if there was the math supported them leaning into the extra attack from
champion,
having MSU and having the leader. And taking the leader. So I done a little bit on it, and I made comparison of 2 units of 9 versus 7 units of 3. So that would be, you know, less points. There's no swamp callers with the 7 units of 3. It's just spam, letting the wizards do their thing. And it definitely supported the 7s, 7 units of 3. Because, you know, the amount of extra shots you've got, you know, you've got 28 shots versus 20 shots. So it's a hell of a lot more shots. And I think my math's right, you know, buffed, you're doing like 15 mortals with the 20 versus like 14, and it's actually close on that in the percentages, in the points, the decimal points, that's what I mean. So it's super close to the mortals, but you're getting like 10 extra hits versus 18 extra hits, right? There's more shots. The 5 still hit without them buffed, right? So
I think the thing you weren't 100% clear on that comparison is 2 units of 9 buffed by swamp callers, or 7 units of 3 not buffed by swamp callers was the comparison.
All in range of a snatch boss.
Just
all in range of a snatch boss.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, obviously the way the math bears out is obviously you're not getting as much efficiency out your buffs, and your worse at unleashing hell, right, as well. But you get so many extra attacks anyway. Battle shock.
You do more damage.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Battle shock problems go away. You know, like being targeted by spells that do, you know, makes your opponent's target priority harder, like for trying to split damage properly.
Makes yours better. You know, I'm going to shoot that unit, did it kill it? No. I'll shoot that unit, did it kill it? No. Ah, great. I will listen to this one. You know, it's so much better when you're shooting it. You can like roll bits of your dice at a time, right? Like incredibly better. But there is a lot of things help having big units in this army. So I don't know if it's, you know, the match just support that simply. You know, you've got the redeploy 1 unit. You've got the stand and fire. There was something else as well that popped up to me.
You got the deploying your units in cover thing, which is only a certain number of units, not like lots of units, and I think it's a trade-off, innit?
Gobs, bracks, stand and shoot being better,
twice, or stand and shoot twice. Yeah.
The possibility to take a vulture with 2 9s and stand and shoot with both your 9s. Well, so I don't think it's that simple. But if you want to like 1 drop and just shoot people. Low drop and just shoot people. Sorry, two drop and just. I think you can think about the MSU side of things, with it there as well. So, you know, and it's less points. You know, so that army would look like Snatcher Boss, 1 Swamp Caller, 8 units of Bolt Boys, 2 Gut Rippers, and then 2 Kruelboyz. So, you know, there's obviously a lot more controller where you do deliver shooting there, and that comes in at 2,000 points. And they were 2 of the real cookie cutter looking armies that I wrote there.
I think I wrote a couple more. That's what most tournament lists are going to look like as well.
Yeah,
you know, like I mean,
so. I wrote.
That's the thing there.
I wrote one other one that was a Snatcher Boss, 2 Swamp Crawlers, a 9, a 6, a 3. That was to get your battle line. 2 2 Kruelboyz, then a Vulture boss, and 3 units of 10 Hobgrots. So that like still has all the shooting, has a Vulture boss, has like more units just to run around the battlefield and die. You know, you're not doing anything with those Hobgrots in this, but they are actually shooting as well. So I thought that was like an okay 2-drop army as well, and doing the same thing basically, but with more tech running around. And then I did write one that was not big yellows, where I had to take 3 units of Gut Rippers. 3 units of Gut Rippers, 2 units of 6 bulk guys, 2 Swampcrawler Shamans. I had Gobsmack in there. The Slog Off for the +1 to hit, because I think we might be doing some fighting with the good whatnot in this. And of course, the Snatcher boss. So, yeah, couple of lists. And I think the Kruelboyz, they look all right. Do we want another army that just spams shooting and hopes for mortal wounds? Probably not. But
no, I think they got some really powerful buff pieces and some really interesting Age of Sigmar 3-ish models where you're playing with the command points style thing, and they got some cool mount traits that do some good stuff as well. And I think I would have liked to have seen. I mean, I'd like to not see mortals on a 6 on the army at all, and have it just do something else altogether. But if we are going to assume that battle traits stay in, it would have just been nice to have the Kruelboyz and the I think the Kruelboyz and the archers not doing mortals on their ranged attacks, not buffable by some of those buff pieces. So I don't think they should be any more expensive, because then they wouldn't be very good at all. But if they were not buffable, which I think is what should happen, they would be support for the Gut Rippers being able to go forward. And the Gut Rippers could probably stand being a bit better. If they had a point of rend, or maybe wounded a little bit better or something like that, or maybe even extra attack wouldn't be terrible for them. I think they could have just shifted some things around to railroad people less into just one army, which is yet another negative play experience army to play against, and just unlock all those cool models and powerful buffs into doing something different instead of the railroad. Powerful faction, though.
I think otherwise it's going to be like Crocodiles, probably like a 20 block of Gut Rippers, maybe, and a couple of 10s. I think they could operate as a 20, okay. And then the Meerbruth Troggoth. But 4 of them, with the Slog Off, making them 2s to hit with those club attacks and that as well.
Yeah.
So, I think you can definitely go out there and fight the Vultures. I think if you want to go and fight, the Vultures aren't fighty enough, but those Troggoths with their own heals and a good save and what maybe they can. Yeah.
Yeah, I like. I like a mix in there. I think if you want to play tournaments but you're not expecting to win, you want to use different models, I think you could put 4 Vultures on the board. Personally, I don't think I think they do enough damage for their points, and they fly and they're fast and they can get around to places, which is quite a lot of things for 240 still. And you can run the named one as well for all the buffs. I think you can mix and match a bunch of monsters with good stats. Definitely the guys with clubs, and then just like a few units of Gut Rippers, and you'll get a solid army with all the mortals and everything that it does. That will be fun to play, and you 3-2 with that or something if you play it well.
It might be that the lists like guns and some of those guys with clubs, maybe some hobgoblins run around as well. You got like 1 or 2 of them and a crocodile and however many guns, and it's some sort of mix like that, right? I think like I've only wrote a very extreme army. Maybe you do need a little bit more, but the fact you've already got a big crocodile walking around the board sort of gives you that, doesn't it, as well? So how much more of that do you want? I'm not sure, but yeah. Cool. Well, I think we should crack on and look at the Ironjawz next, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Which is
right. Back to the start. Here we go.
Another good army.
Yeah, another good army, right? So let's have a look at the battle traits for the Ironjawz. So the Ironjawz Wars are different for this one. So pick an Ironjawz general on the battlefield. They're called the War. At the end of your turn, you add 1 to charge rolls and improve the rend of melee weapons used by Ironjawz by 1. Okay, board wide, +1 charge, extra rend, absolutely crucial.
Incredible. Yeah.
Incredible. You've got to have that extra end, and yeah, +1 charge because you guys have got it in combat. It's really good. Now they've got mighty destroyers, which they've always had. This has had a little bit of a toning down as well. It's got to be an Ironjawz model that issues it, and an Ironjawz unit has to receive it. So there's
It's a command.
none of that in the command ability. Yeah, none of that in Big War. So if this unit receives this command is more than 12, you make a normal move. If it's within 3, you make a pile. Solo.
Yeah, no fight. I read that a few times as well. I was like, oh, it doesn't make you fight. It just makes you pile in. Right. Okay. Interesting.
And if it's units within 12 and more than 3 away, you must attempt to make a charge. So the big one here is moving them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also dodging stand and fire, right, with the charge in the hero phase.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That is right. We did check that, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah, we did, yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
End of the charge phase.
Yeah, so moving basically. So yeah, but it's command ability, so you only get to issue it once.
Well, maybe.
Well, maybe. And then the last one, smashing and bashing, like we've always thought. If you destroy an enemy unit with an Ironjawz unit, another one can fight immediately. Like so, big things keep chaining your guys through, making sure they fight. So not too different there, but toned down, less janky little ways to do things. But obviously the fighting is not being able to fight in the hero phase is pretty big. Okay, now we've got command traits. We've got some for wizards and some for mega bosses. So the mega boss ones, Hulking Brute. After a charge move, 1 unit, 2+ D3 mortal wound. Titan.
Yeah.
They're mega bossy. So this general can issue the Mighty Destroyer's command even if it's already been issued. Okay, it's really good. Do it twice. And then you've got the Mighty War Leader. So when it calls a war, Ironjawz units wholly within 12 of them reroll charges. So even more leaning into getting that in. And then the Ironjawz wizard one, I don't know. It'd be hard to take you guys a wizard. Yeah, it doesn't stop you a mega. I'm checking if you need things to be a mega boss now. Maybe for that mega bossy or the mighty war, maybe you're always going to have a boss general, not sure. But anyway, the wizard one, before attempting to cast a spell, pick a unit within 6 of them. They take D3 mortal wounds, and you add that to the casting roll. And if you slay, if you can pick them to do it, and if you slay them, the spell's not. What? If you pick this general to suffer the mortal wounds, they are slain by one of those wounds, the spell is not cast.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Maybe not obviously, but. Okay.
Not obvious, yeah. Yeah. Best to clarify.
All right. And then the last one is you can pick an extra spell for them to know. They got the teleport still, right? So maybe you really need to get the teleport off. So maybe your leader is it because it's your casting bonus. And then you've got some artifacts of power for the mega boss only gets these. So one of them has a 6+ ward and +1 to hit, but it's -2 movement and they can't run. Destroyer, pick one of their melee weapons, and once per battle you add 3 to the damage characteristic of that weapon until the end of the phase.
When I read this, I had to go back and read it again to check if I'd misread something, like, you know, it made the damage characteristic 3 or something. It's like, no, it makes it 3. That's like, you see some artifacts, sometimes you think, well, that's a bit on the weak side, and you just read some and you're like, what, okay, sure. Also include.
And then the last one's Boss Skewer, +1 bravery, wholly within 18, and a -1 to the enemy, wholly within 12. That's okay. Like, that stuff is a little bit better now with how Inspiring Presence is, and maybe the +1 bravery is really important for the Ironjawz. I'll keep an eye on that as a read through. But between like Animal of Destiny, making a guy a wizard, and getting the one spell that's any good anyway, and that Destroyer one, if you want to do something alpha, I don't think you're going to go that far down the list. So
yeah, doubling your model's damage for a turn under the war. Yeah, it seems pretty good.
Pretty good. Right, and then we've got so let's just think about the mount traits again. You know, double moving a War Crusher, extra damage from the War Crusher's stomps. Their spells, so they've got Foot of Gork. It's cast on a 10, range 18. D6 mortal wounds, and on a 4+, they take D6 mortal wounds again, and you just keep rolling until it stops. So high casting value because its spike value is insane.
Yeah.
Then Mighty Headbutts, already got a casting value 5, got a range of 16. You pick an enemy hero, it suffers 1 mortal wound, and if they're a wizard, they take D3 instead of 1.
Not very good.
What is that spell?
Thematic spell. Yeah. Foot of Gork's the same. You're never going to cast something on a 10 in a competitive game, but you know it's thematic now, isn't it? Like you're going to go for them big numbers.
And then that great big green hand of Gork. So it's got a casting value 7 and a range of 12. You pick 1 friendly Orruk Holy within range and more than 3 away from enemy units. You remove from the battlefield, set up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 away, and it can't move in the following movement phase. Right? Yeah. So really good spell. It's going to tie into loads of combos. Super good. You're going to at least want it in your army for just a chance to cast it. Just everything it does to your opponents if you do cast it. How they have to set up around it, etc. So really good.
I think
bash them, lads.
Sorry, just on that, I think it's worth pointing out that obviously you can do it and then hero phase move them afterwards. We've seen there's more than one.
Yeah. Sorry, I know we've been a bit alluding to,
and you just assumed everyone was onto that, like, but that that is.
I was actually going to expand on it in
Where you?
I'm going to expand on it in combos, surely. All right. When we get going.
I think as well that that the casting value of 7 on that, I think makes that D3 mortal wounds plus the casting command trait really, really powerful as well. Because even just +1 making that a 6 is a 10% odd jump in chance of casting that, and obviously you've got a 2 and a 3 mortals that can make it even better. So I think that's really does push that command trait quite a lot.
And the next one's good. It's casting value 8 though. Add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Ironjawz units that are wholly within 16 of the caster. Start to cast, but it is a good spell.
It's a
maybe a good pick for Arcana powered mega boss on Maw Crusher or something like that. Possibly, if you already had a wizard to take the great green hand. It's a good buff, but bit chancy to cast. Well, they're Warclans now. So Iron Suns kept their charge one. So at the end of the enemy charge phase, the unit receives the command must be a friendly Iron Sun unit that is within 12 of the enemy unit, more than 3 from all enemy units. It can attempt to charge. Just like absolute knockout command ability. So good. People get close, charge your guys in. They're going to walk onto objectives that you get to, charge your guys in. Good for defending against like alpha units, charge your big stuff in. It's a really, really, really good ability. And now there's more commander points going around. I think even better, something that you'd probably previously like get a one-off sort of turn of that type of stuff. Now it's there for the whole game with how many command points you're going to keep getting, because obviously you need to mighty destroy like that. So really good. Now, the Bloodtooth one. So these are the only ones that get Gore Grunters as battle line now. And at the end of the combat phase, if they fought in that phase and are within 3 of the enemy, they can make a pile move. In addition, those units that fought but are not within 3 of enemy units can make a normal move or attempt to charge. So it is good if you're going to slam pigs into people. Now, the last one, the Choppers, is when you use the Violent Fury ability of the War Chancers, you can pick up to 3 friendly Chopper Brutes or Hard Boys to be affected by the ability instead of 1 friendly Ironjawz unit. Good. Interesting though, because like it's only Brutes, so you can't like go, the Mega Bros and then 2 Brutes. It's am I buffing the Maw Crusher or am I buffing all my Brutes? I think that and the Iron Suns will probably about to see play, right?
Yeah, I think they'll all see play. Yeah. I think.
You think? Yeah. The Gore Grunter one even.
Yeah, I mean, just making them battle line, I think is if you're gonna, I think there's plenty of Maw Crusher armies you want to run where you just want to run Maw Crushers with pigs,
loads of pigs
as your battle line. Yeah. Even loads, just a few units of pigs as your battle line.
Really?
Yeah.
Something that can get up and support.
Yeah.
What I'm about to read on the War Scroll of the Mega right.
The Maw Crusher, which is now the War Scroll of this army. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, we sort of have to skip Gordrak a little bit here. He's still a lot of points. He's a bit too many. He only has a 4+ save now, and there's some other subtle things in there, but I don't think Gordrak's the one anymore because, you know, of what the Mega Boss does really, and at what points he's at. So, do you agree?
I don't know. Probably for the save and throw, I think, is the thing that tips it for me.
Yeah, I think so too. So the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher's base stats now are like 18 wounds, 4+ save, move 12. But he can have the weapon profile difference here now. So the one that everyone's got on the models, Boss, Gore, Hacker, and Chopper, is 9 attacks, 3s, Rem 1, 2 damage. And then the other one, the Riptooth Fist and Boss Chopper, is only 7 attacks, so 2 less, but you get a save characteristic of 3+, not 4. There's no +1 to save, you know, it's just a save characteristic, so you can still be improved. Which is the best one, right? I don't know how I can change my one without ruining it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you can just glue a shield on him, on his arm, right?
Suppose,
like,
yeah. Maybe
just clip
do something.
Clip one of his weapons off and glue a shield on.
I could do that. Poor model. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Right, let's go over the rest of it. So the inner burst and raw has stopped being random, so that's nice. So you can do a bit more odds on guessing. It's got 4 attacks, 2s, 3s, Rem 1 damage. We've already went through the 2 weapon attacks, and a Mighty Fist, so what they were, 8 attacks, 3s, Rem 2, 3 damage. I guess we've got to look at a weapon here that would be primed to have whatever the +3 damage was stuck on it now, right, as well?
Yeah.
You imagine, 9 or 7 attacks, damage 5. Going to increase the damage 6 because you probably put a War Chancer on it if you're doing that sort of thing. So incredible output from this guy, right?
Yeah, really crazy.
Mental.
And an extra rend as well in the turn when you're warring.
On your war as well.
So it brings it to rend 2. Yeah, like, I mean, the guy on the back there is, I mean, he's double the attacks of your average guy on the back of a thing. In combination with that destroyer is, I mean, you're adding 21 damage to the model, and he's going to be hitting on 2s in that turn, likely with a command ability, and that's a little bit on the crazy side. Like the actual crazy side, the side where you just take off the enemy unit regardless of what they are. And it's quite scary.
Yeah,
and that's where
the rend issue fighting like some rend stacked other hero, right? Like you could just save them all. So he's cutting through units and models all over the show, though, right?
It's raw numbers, right, though, right? Like if you're throwing 35 points of potential damage at someone, they only need to fail 1 save or maybe 2 saves against your Rend 2, and you've still mostly killed an enemy dragon, and that's just the guy on the back.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's how many attacks? You've got like 7, so you hit with 6 of them and then wound with 4, right? And it's nothing, it's just a couple of saves on a 3 or 2+, it's...
Yeah.
Not that
one of them's going to go through
things.
One of them's going to go through. Like not everything's on a 2's reroll, and like save stacking is silly, but not everything's on a 2 with a reroll. People, the reroll is very uncommon.
I agree. I was more thinking a 3+ save there myself, no reroll. What I'm saying is it's dead to it, right? It's done some damage, but you got the Maw Crusher to go as well, yeah.
Kind of a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal, yeah. 8 attacks, damage 4 Rend 2, so we'll just ignore that bit.
It's not damage 4, is it? The War Chancer doesn't give +1 damage anymore. He's +1 to hit now instead, isn't he? I thought he'd changed the +1 to hit.
He's +1 damage.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to him. Destructive bulk. So this is a lot different, but still has the cool effect of it. So when you do a stomp with the guy with destructive bulk, you add a number of mortal wounds to it, which is 3 at max level with the Mega Boss or Maw Crusher. And again, if there's nowhere in 3, you can move this unit D6 and then do another stomp and keep on going. So you still get that cool stuff if you wipe out what's small units that are next to you. And the odds are better at doing more damage with your stomp now. But well, with stomp versus monstrous bulk, anyway.
Yeah.
You do more damage with stomp than you did if you only had destructive.
Yeah.
And then the skull shaking bellow. This is a big one. Not being big enough already off this model. When you issue command, you pick 3 Ironjawz units to receive it rather than.
Wow.
This is 3 Mighty Destroyer. 3 moves. Which is everyone +1 to hit. This is everyone +1 save. And this is 3 units Battle Shock immune. I think that's everything that's available to him.
Not only is that 2 free command points, basically, so it's 4 command points per battle round for free. Effectively, it's also the ability to double up on the command abilities, which is also crazy. And again, in the context of other models, same release as this, Lord Imperator, 1 free command around, 175 points, crazy numbers that we're apparently paying for free command points. This is 3 of them, and that's not even what the model does. It could not have this ability and it'd still be great. So yeah, that's insane good, very good.
Yeah, obviously metal good, and you can do even more, right? Like the Mighty Destroyers thing, you could have the one where the other Mega Boss can do it on a Maw Crusher as well, and then like move. You got 2 Mega Boss and Maw Crusher, or units you're gonna have to move. But that's 6 guys. That's him moving. That's like 6 units doing the move. What we were talking about earlier, where you could give them fasten, so you could like teleport a unit somewhere, then fasten the Mega Boss up, then issue all these abilities, so you can that unit's got within range of a Mega Boss and Maw Crusher. It wasn't a Mega Boss and Maw Crusher in the first place. You can teleport like foot units and then support them with a Mega Boss and Maw Crusher with a fast move, then move them all into. We're talking 3 inches away. We're talking charges all over the place. No fuss at all. Getting this army around the board and getting it in combat. There's so many little things you can do with it, right? It's crazy. So, but, I think you can do most of those things I've said. Like you can give them faster, and you can give them do two things if that's what you wanted to do. If you needed reroll charges, within 3 at +1. I think you need that maybe. So probably being able to like do them all over the show. Really good. Then you still got strength from Vic.
Sorry, you are getting 2 more crushers in your face on turn 1 if you play against this army. Like that's a thing in Age of Sigmar now. That's a meta thing you're gonna have to deal with. Can you deal with 2 more crushers, one of them popping the destroyer on his chopper and rip 2 fist, all at +1 to hit, charging your army turn 1, and being able to destructive bulk its way through small screens, so you can't even small screen that off. You've got a big screen that off with things that have got like 10+ wounds as well.
There's a lot. Just give you what combination of like weapons you take, how because you're not going to 1-drop with 2 Mega Bosses or Maw Crushers, obviously. So you're going to be maybe opening yourself up to Warlord and getting some things and what you need of it. So wild. What a model. 480 points. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, crazy. I think I like to mention Gordrak though. Gordrak's does tons of mortals on 4s now when he rolls, so it gets round the low Ren problem that these have got, and his Maw Crusher's got an extra attack. He himself's got 2 extra wounds. I think he's pretty good. But did the thing where you get extra attacks after you kill stuff, both of these have got now as well, which is a real thing because these are going to kill stuff and then get an extra. An extra attack and wound for the rest of the battle. Did the normal Maw Crusher used to have that as well? I thought that used to be Gordrak's like special ability.
Oh no.
Yeah. But he's 80 extra points now, and he hasn't got the option for the 3+ save, which is like a big deal. And you can't put artifacts on him, which you're really going to want to do. So I think you're right. I don't think he's good enough now because the normal Mega Boss on Maw Crusher is just so good. But even though he's
wounds
worse
as well. The Maw Crusher.
Well, yeah. Even though he's worse than the Maw Crusher one, though, he's still bonkers for his points. So if you've got a Gordrakh and you want to play him, you certainly can play him, and he will certainly still be very good charging into people's faces. Yeah.
Now, Mega Boss on foot. This guy gets some help. Bits of addition, bits of this book. 7 wounds, 4+, 3+ save. A respectable attack profile, 8 attacks, 3s, round 1, 2 damage. He issues it. He does the order thing, but only to 2 units instead of 1, instead of 3. Still really good if he's issuing commands, getting the extra ones out there. If he dies, he can fight, and he gets the strength from victory rules. I like this guy. He's 140 points. I think he is, I'm sure Ian wants to compare him to some sort of Stormcast guy out there. Got that 3+ save number, which is really easy to get to a 2+. Crazy attack profile. Good model, right, Ian?
He's incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, he's got way more attacks than any other model at 140 points generally comes close to. He's got the 7 wounds, 3 up save combo, which you normally pay a lot more points than 144. And he's able to issue 2 commands on top of that. So, you compare this guy to the guy I've just mentioned, the Lord Imperator. He's 35 points cheaper. He's got better combat profile. His command ability is better. And he's got, his strength from victory, and he can fight if he dies first as well. 140 points for all that is great. I think that's probably the right, again, that is this model isn't undercosted. That's the right number of points that you need to consider taking a model like this. It's just that there's so many heroes in the game that aren't cheap enough to make them worth taking compared to other things. And this is the kind of model we want to see. So yeah, he's good. Yeah.
Now the War Chanter, which is the absolute engine of this army, like the Swamp Caller was for the Kruelboyz. So 115 points, 6 wounds, 4+ save. His attack profile got better. I don't know. But so it done extra hits. Now it's got like 6 attacks, 3s, no rend, damage, D3. Like that is good against some targets. Like, wow, good. But its big things is Violent Fury. So pick one friendly unit wholly within 15 +1 damage. Can't have it more than once. And that's the thing that is going to be increased by a lot more by one of the special abilities, put all the brutes. That is crucial to Ironjawz. We've already mentioned
crazy
some units we've talked about already. We'll carry on mentioning it as we do. Now the war beats, these are better as well now. So these go off on a 3+, not a 4+, and they're all the same. Killer beats, enemy unit within 12, +1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons that target that unit. Oh, I don't even have to roll for that one now, it just goes off. If you're nice and close, oh yeah, brilliant. Then getting beats on a 3+. Oh, you don't even roll, do you? Oh, you do. 3+. Sorry, it says there, yeah. So it's 3+ to roll. So the getting beats the same, makes them charge within 18, 3d6. Then the fix and beat is d3 wounds healed to a model within 12. So that was always like quite good because you could just always use it because it is actually quite hard to like keep these up and manage all the ranges, and it's this it's the skillful part of playing this army is moving the war chances and when to teleport them, when to run and not and whatnot, so you can keep your army functioning after like just throwing a turn 1 combo out. That's the skill check on this army. So fix and beat was like always an easy one just to use, but now you can heroic heal as well. Everything amplifies heals, doesn't it? In more and more, they end up being quite good. So incredible model. Weird Knob Shaman, look, he's the same. He's 90 points now, so he's nice and cheap, and he's gonna hold your big green hand of orc. So he's good. Brutes, maybe some weapon changes, but I don't know. But these are what they were, like 3 wounds, 4+ save, 160 points for 5 of these. So they survived the addition change with a really good points cost. I think you're going to take the Jagged Gore Hackers with a 2-inch reach because they've got Ren 2 now. 3 attacks, 3s, Ren 2, 1 damage, and one of them's got some better weapons as well. But they have a good amount of damage. They add 1 to hit rolls when they target a unit that's got 4 or more wounds, a wound characteristic of 4 or more. But the big one is, you messing. Enemy models with a wounds characteristic of 1 that are within 3 of this unit and not contest objectives. Woo!
Crazy rule.
Lovely.
Crazy rule. Just the raw numbers on these. The raw numbers on these for 150 points, like 15 wounds, 4 up save, 12 attacks, 3s and 3s, Ren 2, plus the boss claw, plus 1 to hit against monsters or anything like big cavalry and that. So the raw stats are really good before you factor in all the bonuses they're going to get. So when they war, they're going to be Ren 3. But then that on top as well, that's a unit. And the battle line.
Yeah.
That's a unit.
Boss.
That's the incredible.
Yeah, real unit. Like, obviously he's like a weird place, 5 models, 3 wounds. These are terrible for playing objectives. Any of the benefits from the edition seem to like give them a little nod with this rule, haven't they, to bring them into playing the game for Ironjawz. How they obviously helped Giants, they obviously helped the ones
Stormcast Vindictors and stuff like that.
Stormcast as well, Stonehorns, they put that in for these as well. So these are going to be everywhere. Get buying brutes if you haven't already. Hard boys. Right. I guess there's a lot of us out there with lots of these. Same wheel characteristics as before. 2 wounds, 4 move, 4 up save. The Hard Boy Choppers is different. It's got 3 attacks and it hits on 4s, 3s to wound. So a little bit to help with the fact that they're 1-inch melee, 32mm bases. They add 1 to bravery and they add 1 to charge rolls. Now, this is their interesting rule is if they are wholly within 12 of a war chanter, when you rally them, models come back on a 4+, not a 6. Obviously, that is very good, except they're a fighting unit and you can't use it when you're within 3. And the shield just gives a 6 up, so it's no messing around. It works against everything. You're going to have to save. 85 points for 5. I think you can take a holding unit of them, right? Like to have some actual models.
85 points for 5. 85 points for 10 4 up save wounds with a ward on top. And an okay, 15 attacks is a bit more than you normally get for that amount of point spend is fine. I agree with you. I think the sound, the thing is you're just comparing them to brutes, right? And you're like, okay, these have got a bit more raw survivability than brutes, as most cheap battle line have got, but brutes are doing, you have a +1 damage on brutes, just 5 brutes has got 30 points of Ren 3 damage in your war turn. Like 5 brutes will murder anything on its own, and it ignores anything that's got 1 wound. I think it's a really hard sell to want to put these in your army now, personally, unless it's the only battle line you can fit, which again is a great thing to have available to you, is the option to take cheap battle line, which makes a lot of armies fit. Something's got to sit on your objectives.
Yeah, they're good to sit in objectives. I think they're okay to like tying the enemy up. I think they're quite good for like stealing an objective off your opponent, with like against like obviously they're good against like maybe getting on an objective against the monster where the brutes are not. Aggressively teleporting them up the board and taking control of a home objective. I could see a roll, let's say 15 of them, and actually you could sequence a retreat or wiping the enemy out, and then like say your Maw Crusher comes in and wipes out what they were fighting, leaving them alive on a few models after they fought. Like, imagine like they fight the big thing nearly kills them, but it doesn't. They get Inspiring Presence, your Maw Crusher comes in, kills the big thing, then you're on to rallying, right? And you're bringing like tons of them back. It's another thing for the war chancer to worry about, but I think they're okay.
If you had 3 units of them, you could rally all 3 of them at once with a Maw Crusher and bring back like a giant.
These are really good at standing on the other side of the board, getting shot by Lumineth and just bringing everything back.
Yeah, that's a good role. Yeah, I personally, I think you're reaching because you want to use your 30 painted Hard Boys. Personally, and it's a struggle to want to use these.
I think I can get something out of. I think I can get something out of 15 of them. I think
you put 25 of them in your case and keep 5 out for when your army's 1900 points and you need a battle line unit. That's what I reckon. I mean, you could do all three, depending on what you're running. You know, if you want to run like 3 more crushers, 3 units of them being your battle line is sound. I mean, as battle line go, they're sound. They got a 4-up save.
Yeah.
What more do you want? Yeah.
All right, the Gorgrunters are the same. They're not the same. But like the key things are right. Like, you know, the movement 9, 5 wounds, 4-up save. They still got the mortal wound on the charge thing. They lost the +1 to hit on the charge, which is quite a nerf to them, I suppose. So the Jagged Gore Hackers are not as good an option anymore. They had that innate, you know, +1 to hit on the charge, and the Tusks and the Hooves had some sort of bonus as well. So yeah, a little bit worse, but they still got like a whole load of attacks to buff with Violent Fury from the War Chanter. So these are still a good unit, and the cavalry, they move well. I love Gorgrunts. I'd never play without them. So I think 2 units of them vital.
They're 15 wounds of cavalry for 150 points, which again is cheap. You know, I know I go on a little bit about units that are maybe like 10, 20, 30 points too cheap, and it might seem a lot, but when you add it up over the course of the army, you know, the boss is really cheap. The Maw Crushers are really cheap. Brutes are you probably pay, a lot of armies pay 50 or more points more for that unit, even if they can get it. And then these, again, most of the time when you've got a unit of cavalry that's got a 4+ save and 24 points of melee damage potentially, and a nice, you know, an okay mortal on the charge rule, you're not paying 10 points a wound. And these are still only paying 10 points a wound, which is just really efficient. And, you know, again, just raw numbers efficiency is a thing. So again, I think these are very good just by virtue of how cheap they are compared to what other armies would have to pay to do something similar.
Yeah. And then there's 2 Underworlds warbands here. And both of these aren't some character with some men. They're just some men. How much have you paid attention to these?
I always read these in every book because I always wait for the one standout one that's like super incredibly good. One of the Stormcast ones is almost good as well, actually. The original Stormcast warband from Shadespire is almost good, but not quite.
Well, these are good, and I think these will see play. They are a point number that you don't have access to otherwise. Like, yes, you have access to our boys at 85, but the Iron Skull boys here at 80 points, and they're maybe a bit better. Like, they've got more damage, got a bit of an older stat line. They've got like rend on the weapons. They are more damage, right? They got like a ward save. Other models in the unit all have a ward save of 6+. There's only 4 models compared to 5, but the 5 points cheaper. I think if you're don't want battle line, these are a bit of a standout, aren't they? If you don't want battle line, our boys.
Yeah, it's nice having access to the thing if you just want to spend some points. And, you know, again, a lot of the time, I found a lot of my armies now, as I always have, I'm taking one slightly worse unit to have a triumph bid. And, you know, that 5-point triumph bid is going to be way more than any difference in the 2 units. So, yeah, it's again, good thing to have access to, as always, because it's at a points value you don't otherwise have.
And the same, the Crushers are 90 points for 3 brutes, basically. Which, yeah, you know, they've got the stat line sound. I think if you've got they still got a hell of a lot of attacks there. They're decent.
They're a little bit different for me because they haven't got access to the Rend 2 weapon and they haven't got the thing that ignores 1 wound units. Yeah. So I don't think I would be. I think I'd probably rather take a unit of 5 hour boys than them if I was looking for something at that points level.
I think it'd be all right. They're okay. Yeah, maybe you're right. Ironjawz.
Yeah. Incredible. I think they've just come in at some points values where, you know, the points values they've been given have been very, very kind to them. And, you know, I think the meta's in a really good place for them because basically everyone's playing soft shooting armies with not enough screens right now. So I think these are going to be deadlier than ever. I'd love to get that in.
Then I got it in, lad.
Yeah. So what are the armies looking like?
Yeah, so I think we both agreed that we were like, are we taking 2 more crushers or not, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's I wrote a 1/1 drop army, which was a 1 more crusher, a unit of 10 brutes, 2 5s, 2 war chanters, and then that's 3 unit of 10 boys and 6 gore grunters, unit of 3 gore grunters. It was so much like reinforcing that I didn't feel that it was where I wanted to be with an army, chasing that 1 drop. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's one of them situations, isn't it? Like being 1 drops potentially really powerful, but the second more crusher is just better. And you risk with that army. Although there's lots of armies that just that 1 more crusher with the destroyer could just win your games on the spot against a lot of armies, you do risk just losing on the backswing, I think, because your alpha isn't big enough. Whereas we've got all these options to slam our entire army into someone. And, there's enough wounds in the army that even if you even if a Lumineth player goes first against you, he's probably not going to shoot a more crusher off. And if he does, he's exposed himself to a double from your surviving more crusher anyway. So I don't think that being 2 drop, and that's even if you are playing against 1 drop armies, which isn't every time. I think being 2 drop is a much safer thing. And really,
that's maybe that's like a bad example of a 1 drop army. I think maybe it is like loads of gore grunters and some brutes probably would be different, right? I guess you'd do that, wouldn't you? You'd take out as many gore grunters as you thought was right and brute to hold the board, wouldn't you? Because you want to go aggressive and charge. Probably take brutes as the battle line. So you had, after like 3 units of them, which only leaves you like taking 2 big units of gore grunters, which can't be that good. Don't spend the point that well.
I think it depends. I think you can, with the triple mighty destroyers thing, and multiple war chanters. You've got obviously the option of you're gonna mighty destroyers them 3 units up. Your 2 units of gore grunters and your more crusher turn 1. You're gonna drop your war, so they're all on extra rend. They're on extra damage from your war chanters, and again, you end a lot of games just right there with that. Like really easily end a lot of games just on your turn 1 with that. But I think the 2 more crusher version is better to the extent I'd rather be on the 2 drop one, I think. But I think you can take
2 units. You could take 2 units of 6 gore grunters, then 3 units of brutes. 1 of them at 10, 2 war chances and a more crusher. That's like a pretty aggressive 1 drop army.
And I think that's what the army. Ultimately, what the army does is be aggressive and get in your face on turn 1. And again, like I say, that's a really good thing. Now they've also got the raw damage output to kill giants as well, which a lot of armies haven't right now, which is another thing that puts them in a really good spot, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, some other combination, like it's not exactly full list compared to some combinations units here. We're going to have 2 mega bosses, 3 units of brutes, 2 gore grunters, and 2 war chanters. What do you think of that? That's no teleport, or you obviously can take Arcane Tomb if you wanted.
Yeah.
Make that like Warlord plus Hunters of the Heartland.
Yeah.
So you
still very solid
from getting stomped.
I think a lot of the combinations you can put out there are really solid. Again, just because everything's just on the cheap side for what it does. I think there's a lot of these combos where you just put on a good army on the table, and I think playing against these, if they're not trying to alpha you or do something to you before you can react, you've still got to fight just a really efficient, army, which is what Orruks have always been. Ironjawz have always been really, really efficient. So I think that combo works just fine.
Another one which it might be like a double warlord battalion, which would be like to get loads of stuff for these more crushers and your other guys. So like 2 mega bosses on more crushers, 3 brutes, 2 war chances, a weird knob and a mega boss taking you to 6 heroes, and then you could take like one of the war bands, or you can take some more our boys, whatever you want, like as another little unit. So I think like that's what it's about, isn't it? It's like, what would you take in if you had double warlord?
Yeah.
What would you take? You take Amulet of Destiny on one.
I think you're looking to take Amulet of Destiny on one and Destroyer on the other, aren't you? I think is pretty obvious combinations for me.
Yes.
I think
so that's
if you
2.
But we're only talking about double more crusher. So after that, the value of the third artifact is a bit less, right?
You could take a second mount trait for one of them.
That's true.
The mega bot, which could be a general, could be another wizard.
Meanan's pretty good as well, because with Destructive Bolt, you're doing D6 plus 3 mortal wounds when you stomp. And you do that against. So you do that against some units that are already a bit weakened. D6 plus 3, great chance of triggering your Destructive Bolt follow up as well, which is kind of cool, especially when you give it the if you add the command trait on. Although the command trait that does D3 mortals when you charge on a 2+, basically that adds up. Suddenly you'd be doing 10 mortals on the charge with those 2 things there, with Hulk and Brute and the big stomp on a Maw Crusher, which is certainly not nothing either. It's interesting, not something I would like to play against, certainly. Getting charged for 10 mortals.
Yeah, I think there's... Yeah, you're right. Yeah, a Hulk and Bruted one with the extra one from the meaning, like you say. Yeah, there's quite a lot of mortals on the charge there, isn't it? From just one of them, and obviously the double damage, and maybe you can even have one with 9 attacks and not the 3+ save. I don't know if that's even sensible, but it's just a real crazy damage one. But interesting. Yeah, so that was another one that took advantage of like double warlord and still Hunters of the Heartland. It's a combination I do like if there's enough stuff to support them, which I think in this book there probably is. They definitely made some good examples of it there. I do like one more crusher. I like one more crusher for how much stuff you get. Like you say, these units are cheap. So I've got a couple of I just got two one more crusher lists here. So you could take one more crusher, 2 units of brutes of 5s, 15 hard boys, 2 units of gore grunters in 3s, and then you can take 2 war chanters, the weird knob, and the mega boss. And you've also got like 200 points left over then. So you could take, more hard boys, you could take both of the war bands if you wanted, or you can have a massive triumph bid and another unit of brutes, or you can get another character to go to 6 artifacts if you wanted. You can even drop the mega boss. So like another one here is 3 units of brutes, 2 war chanters, the weird knob, 3 units of gore grunters, and 15 hard boys. Like that's loads of stuff. Still the wizards, still both war chanters, or more crusher. 15 gore grunters run 90, 15 brutes come 90, 15 hard boys in a hold and roll.
It's that war. You get a lot. That army-wide -1 rend on that war for me is the thing that is the thing that I'm looking at that and I'm going, wow, just all these units that might be okay-ish in combat, maybe, but like certainly got a lot of attacks for their points. Being able to pump them all up to Rend 2 or Rend 3 for a turn is, especially these pigs that are just really cheap for what they do, right? Like, you put +1 damage on them, you go and charge them in. They're just eating units alive, and it might only be 1 turn of Rend 1, but there won't be a lot left afterwards. So yeah, I think there's all sorts you can do, and I think they're fantastic. Yeah, they're really good.
I'm really torn between painting another Maw Crusher and how many, like a real bunch of brutes. I think like I need to paint the brutes in both situations really. So, but I definitely want to get. I feel like I want to get an Ironjawz army back on the board. Don't know about a big war slash, big war slash battle or just a Kruelboyz army. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Right,
I think the big war now, after being like losing a lot of its power, like the Ironjawz war being a global -1 rend is like almost just better than what the big war is giving you in a lot of ways. I think just because you can do it turn one, you do it turn one when you do your big charge, you do it earlier than the big war.
Let's fly over the big war. So the big war, you still get the following 3 battle traits from the armies. So this, you get venom encrusted weapons, get the mighty destroyers, and you get the war paint from the bone splitters. Now you get here we go. So this is an heroic action you carry out by one friendly Orruk Warclans hero instead of picking one from the table. And what you do, you roll dice. If you beat the number of the battle round, get that many war power points. So this is on that table that you remember from the war already. The other ways you get the big war power now is you get D6 at the start of your hero phase if your general's on the battlefield. You get 2 if you got a war chancer, 1 if you got any bone splitter, 1 for each Orruk unit that finishes charge move, and 1 for each friendly Orruk unit that is free of the enemy unit at the end of the combat phase. Okay. Now this is the chart now. Ranges from 8 to 24 points. So the first one, 8 plus 1 run, 10 plus 1 charge, 12 plus 1 cast and dispel on an unbinding, which is quite rare. Then 16 is plus 1 hit. 20 is plus 1. That's where you want to be. And if you got 24, you can do it war, plus 1 attacks to the melee of all Orruk units, and at the end of it, you lose all your war points. So very rare you'd call it. Quite toned down the big war now.
Yeah.
I think
it was too easy to do before. It was too easy to just get it to max level and blow it before. It didn't make any sense.
Now, like, maybe you're spiking a high roll. You can do the heroic action on both turns. So, that can get you like 2 around the first battle round. Maybe you get 3 more is 5. Then you're rolling your D6. It's all on your mighty destroyer, Ironjawz, slamming into the other army to get that stuff up. Feels like an Ironjawz army. To get to those benefits, they have to do a lot to get there. And to be supported by some like Kruelboyz or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I think when you look at the numbers, I think turn 2 after you've charged and gotten your bonuses in, you can reasonably reliably get to +1 to hit. Pretty hard to get to +1 to wound though, and sometimes you might even miss the +1 to hit if you get low rolls. So I think realistically, you're looking at turn 3 for most of these, which is again when you could just take -1 rend on turn 1 or whatever. I think maybe a bit of a hard sell. And it's taking on your heroic actions.
But you need a big D6 roll to hit that 20, don't you? I think in a time frame that is reasonable. So, yeah. Right. Are we on time, lad?
I think that's about just over 2.5 hours. I didn't expect this one to take longer than the Stormcast one, but it has.
It's how I read them out, isn't it? I don't summarize them as well as you. I don't think so.
But I mean, there's a lot to. I mean, there's basically 2 armies we've gone through there worth of stuff. Now, I think maybe a bit flippant for a big review, but Bone Splitters obviously pretty much. There's plenty of other people who talk about these. We'd just be talking about how much they've been nerfed. Really, they're pretty much a bit of a non-entity now. Which very old models, very old style army. Time gets everyone in this game, and I think it's just their time. Really, isn't it?
Yeah. I know, sorry for people who maybe have joined us to listen to a Bone Splitters one, and unfortunately we ran out of time a little bit here on that one. Our lives, we're filming in the middle of the workday here, aren't we? So so apologies if you are disappointed not hearing about anything Bone Splitters, but look, they ripped the guys apart, didn't they? They just left them with nothing, just no rules. It's not interesting at all. I don't know where we're going to leverage making them better now. But
and their points as well. I mean, for how cheap all those Ironjawz pigs and those Ironjawz brutes and all that kind of stuff are, on the 4+ save, even on just on hard boys, you look at the points on the the Savage Orc Boar boys, on the Savage Orruks, they just, it's like a 5-year, it looks like a 5-year-old war scroll, and I mean it is, but it looks like one in a new book in 2021. So there's just no good reason to run these really, unless you're playing some friendlies.
Benjamin Sava, the Erstwood on Twitter, isn't he? Didn't have some? He summed it up pretty well. A real diehard player of the army, didn't he? I think he did quite a bit of a summary of what was gained and lost, wasn't it? And there was it was grim, wasn't it? I remember reading that, thinking, wow, because I don't know this army like 20 faction really.
20 odd abilities they lost, I think, between them, and given they've only got like 8 war scrolls or something, and it was them big stabbers. They've always been a little bit of a wild card unit that a lot of people had never played against, and we had a local player who played them a long time ago, and they did crazy amounts of damage to monsters. And they're coming out in this edition, you're like, yeah, get me Savage Big Stabbers, they're going to kill me a load of monsters, and they come out and the war scroll's been gutted, which is like a real shame, because they, the best time it's ever been to play Big Stabbers, and they don't do the same stuff anymore. So a bit of a shame. I guess you just have to, chalk it up to these models being too old to be worth selling anymore, which is unfortunately a thing.
Definitely. Well, I'll definitely, if I see anyone talking good bone splitter stuff or catch anything in all the community for now, I'll definitely share it out there and people know, where they can look for some bone splitters advice if that's the type of thing they're looking for. Well, look, I think this book looks strong still. I'm a little bit disappointed in the Kruelboyz. Maybe the play style frustrates me a little bit, because I've just got a Sentinel army and I've been playing it a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not seeing the subtle differences in how the armies will play yet. But
no one wants more bit of a ranged attack, mortal spam shooting armies to be in the game, unfortunately. And this book's going to change the competitive meta a lot. The Stormcast one is with Stormdrake Guard spam as well, but this one's going to add a lot of people spamming more ranged attack mortals, and there's going to be a new thing in the meta which doesn't really exist right now, which is getting charged turn 1 by monsters, which is a good thing in some ways, because it will force people to take some screens, take some things to protect those archers, so people aren't going quite as all in on these ranged attack armies. But yeah, the combat armies like Gargants are gonna struggle against these as well, because these are just good enough to just kill the Gargants, right? They just die like really easily. So
Ironjawz,
big meta changing.
Big. Both this Stormcast huge, Ironjawz massive, aggressive, slam stuff into you. Stormdrake Guard army, can you deal with 13 dragons shooting 20+ mortal wounds at you and then charge you with the entire army? Maybe not. Yeah, that all happens turn 1 without doing anything clever. You just move them, shoot them, charge with everything. Load of bonus to do every single one of those things. You can fight with big units. Like there's definitely like where your screens, how you're deploying. We're going back to some stuff that we haven't seen for a while. So I think they are going to spin things on the head. Can't see how it all pans out. Hopefully, maybe see if we put the game in a better place in some ways. Because some ways it's not. I'm enjoying playing Age of Sigmar. Still quite a lot, but maybe because I'm a bit of an addict. Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going out there as well. I'm not sure about the Stormdrake Guard. I'm not looking forward to that. There's 2 armies. I don't want to sound insulting, right? There's 2 armies. That Stormdrake Guard army and Gargants are very easy to achieve a good result with. Okay.
Yeah. Very.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the one. I want to win. I don't want to feel clever because I've done it with Lumineth and I've done some buffs that have moved guys around or whatever. Like I feel clever doing it. I know my opponents don't think I'm clever. They think I'm just shooting them.
Yeah, same thing. So, I mean,
once you've got that rhythm, is it harder to do and learn? Yeah, but once you know it, it's not hard. Like just doing the same thing over and over again. But they are mad. those armies are going to be big gatekeepers in Age of Sigmar 3 right now. Giants, Stormdrake Guard, Lumineth Realm Lords, these bow snakes. There's a lot of super polar armies. So
yeah, very much. Interesting to see how it shakes out.
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, let's wrap it up then. Look, if you watched this far, you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Please let us know in your comments. Tell us what you think. Tell us what we missed. Tell us what we got wrong. You guys love telling us the wrong rules. And we love to see what we've got wrong. Give us a subscribe. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you. It's great to be back, righty?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we definitely been a bit of a gap left in the podcast thing. It feels like right now, so it's good to be able to putting these back out there for you guys who enjoy it in that format. And most of all, please shop with us. Just Play Games.uk. You can make all your purchases, all your Warhammer, all your dragons, all your orcs, everything you need to get playing. And of course, we've got a massive range of hobby supplies. We've got great customer service and really fast shipping. Please check us out. Ian, mate, thanks so much for joining me today and giving up a big chunk of your day. I appreciate it. And listening to me talk about orcs.
Yeah, it's cool. They're good.
Right, guys. Catch you all next time.
Bye, guys.